kutoka mlimani.
Na uko na ujumbe?
Niko na ujumbe.
Okay.
Nimekuja nikakuta mkiabudu ng'ombe. Ng'ombe nyingi.
Sanamu. Yeah.
Mnaabudu ng'ombe. Surely. But those guys went through a lot in those 40 years. Eh?
Who, the Israelites?
Yeah. It is, among other things, a study in not just the resilience of human beings, but in the utter and irrefutable nature of human beings. Yes. Because if you consider the story, the miracles that happened, those miracles had a sell-by date. After a while, the influence...
They expire.
They expire. So they want, they want a new miracle.
And a new, fresh one.
Yes, that is where now the issue of just creating their own God came into being. Of course, there's the study of the lasting influence of the places you've been in. Actually, if you read that Old Testament, one of the things that comes across is, again, when I say human nature, but it is the influences that determine the way we conduct ourselves and how lasting those influences are. Because the one thing that constantly seems to be a point of discussion is don't go around doing things the way these other people are doing it.
Yeah.
Okay? These guys have missed the point.
Yeah. Don't be like them.
Yes. By the same token, remember, we're talking about this country of ours now, Naishi, the Nyingi Nyingi. What are the possible solutions? You know, I was thinking, Ramadan comes immediately after the holy month of Ramadan, after Easter and the ceremonies that are before it. Those who are strict and committed adherents to these two faiths, one of the things that perhaps they need to talk about a little more and focus on is something that is similar in both faiths. It's called prayer. When things are beyond your common human understanding, that isn't an avenue that you should ignore. Because how on earth do you even begin to bring about what I may call a human solution to what faces us? Huh? You read the papers. This one hit me, and we'll talk about it later. It's like young people don't believe you can actually just apply for a job and get it. No, they honestly don't believe.
They haven't seen it happen.
Yes, lived experience. It's like somebody has to give money for you to expect to get a job.
Yep.
For someone like me, that's alien.
Yep.
Or you must know somebody within the institution then who's...
And even then, somebody must speak to them. And speak here isn't, we're
Talking.
not referring to words. No. Money must exchange hands.
Yep.
And even then, money exchange hands and nothing is still forthcoming. Anyway.
It's a tough one. You know, the other day I was having a conversation with someone and they were like, you know, these God's chosen people, they went through a lot. Eh?
Yes.
So many years as slaves in Egypt. Then in your exodus from Egypt, so many years in the wilderness. An entire generation spends time in the desert. Before that, there's so many years in captivity in Babylon, 70 years. I mean, it's like God would just turn around like this and forget about you guys for a while. Eh? 70 years in captivity.
But that was after a long warning, and you're told, you know, Nani, these things you're doing is going to land you in this particular problem.
But you guys, 70.
No, but you guys, you listen.
You've been alive for how long, City? You're still in captivity. Can you imagine?
Born in captivity.
Born and bred and grow old and die in captivity.
Yes, it becomes the norm.
My God.
You're talking of 70 years. How long do you think they were in Egypt?
Imagine.
You're talking of Babylon, 70 years. How long do you think they were in Egypt?
As slaves. And then...
It wasn't 70, it wasn't 100 years, it was more. Tending more towards 300. Those guys were there for a long time.
As in just God just, you know, there.
There are people who are born, died, had children, born, died, their children had children, born, died in Egypt.
That's the life they knew.
Yes. So this story, it's like they hang on to this thread of, you know, one day we'll leave this place. Now, that's the dichotomy I was speaking of. Here on the one hand, you're talking about a situation where people feel they will be redeemed. And yet, man, it takes quite a bit of time.
It takes a while, bro.
Quite a bit of time. Sure.
When God just gets ticked off with them, he goes to the extreme. To live here, or he just sends fire, or he sends rain. Hey.
Something.
Wow, wow,
But
wow,
it's
wow.
within the boundaries of what they had previously agreed on.
Do this and things will be fine.
Because the flip side of that is what the benefits of us fulfilling what we had agreed on. The benefits. Now, that's the flip side, the negative side of the anti-benefits. This is what we agreed on, this is how you'll benefit. But if you don't do this, this is what will become of you. Look, is that not the rule by which life actually functions? Think about it. Every time you look back and you think and you consider the achievements that people have made, do they ever actually sit and tell you what they had to go through before getting to where they got to?
Well, in most cases, no.
But usually it doesn't just happen. And if it seems like it just happened, then somebody went through it on your behalf.
Yep. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning, this lovely Thursday morning. Let's begin where we always begin. COVID-19. So, we are observing this curfew and other restrictions until the end of May.
In what is now being referred to as the DIZ, the disease infected zone, the curfew that had been announced when the president made his announcement a few weeks ago will be in place now until at least the 29th of May. Right? So the questions, of course, started popping up yesterday. So what does this mean? Schools were supposed to open on the 10th of May, 10th, 11th of May, and you're going to restrict this. We then begin to see some rise in cases outside of the DIZ. What does this mean? Are we going to see a further lockdown in some of these counties? Wasingishu being one of them now, where we see a higher caseload. And so, I mean, it's just going. And the questions are being asked. So now what happens as a result of that? The Cabinet Secretary for Interior yesterday, of course, gazetted this notice, making it clear to everybody that, look, this is where we stand until and unless we give other...
This was the further notice that the president said.
This was the further notice. Until further notice. So the curfew stays in place until further notice. Further notice then happened yesterday. And so now we know that at least the curfew continues. In terms of lifting of other restrictions, there's been a lot of, posturing about what could be, what could not be. Well, we don't know until we know, right? So for now, things stay in place as they have been announced. So yesterday, 990 odd cases in the country having been reported in Kenya. And we're looking at, this was out of a sample size of just over 6,000. So 991 people tested positive yesterday out of a sample size of 6,400 tested in the last 24 hours. Positivity rate again is at about 15.4%. So far, the country has carried out 1,571,244 cases. We see that there is a steady decline in the cases having been reported in the disease-infected zone, and we see that there's a slight increase in cases outside this zone. So the eyebrows are up already in terms of what this might mean. And the speculation was that, when you close down these 5 counties, a lot of people then decided to up and leave before the time came. So what if you then spread it to those other counties, and what is going to happen thereafter? Okay, so that is the question.
It'll be stabilized.
It will. We'll wait and see how that goes. All right. Politics and COVID. Let's look at Brazil in terms of what's going on here. The Brazilian Senate has now launched an inquiry into Bolsonaro's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember, with all the crazy numbers that we've seen, about a week ago today, we saw the highest number of deaths ever. You were raising your eyebrows at 3,000 and something. They crossed 4,000 on a couple of days ago of number of deaths in one day. And he still refused to lock down the country. And what is he doing? He's giving food aid, money transfer aid to the population, and said that's what they want. And he says, we lock down this, millions of people will go hungry, and I'm not going to take the responsibility for that. So now he's facing it. He's been condemned by medical experts, and a lot of people are saying that this is one of the worst cases of the handling or rather mishandling and mismanagement of COVID-19 in the world. He downplayed it. He dismissed it as a little flu. He cast doubt on the effectiveness of masks and vaccines, and he has continued to say that he will not bring or instill any kind of lockdown in the country, let people go about their business. But people at the same time are dying, and to use that phrase, unfortunately, like flies. He says, can't they understand that this policy of closing down everything, of lockdown, is wrong? And he said this while addressing a crowd outside the presidential palace in Brasilia. So now...
And they were cheering him.
And they were cheering him. The people were saying, absolutely, we can't, we will go hungry and we don't want to.
If you think about this, the president 2 weeks ago announced a lockdown. What did we hear from the people? Even on this show, the things that, people have been calling on. They're saying,
How are we going to eat? Open it.
Open. And, man. Okay.
Here things are
Anyway.
bad, guys. So yesterday, in terms of the cases that we did see reported in Brazil, 75,998 new cases, 3,462 new deaths yesterday. So things are not good. And in the midst of all of this, he's still downplaying it. We're not talking about something that he said a year ago. We're talking about something that he said quite recently, that, you know what, it's just a little flu. We'll be all right. We're not going to lock it down. We'll find a way. I don't know what that way will be, but he's resilient in his stance.
You know, this story of herd immunity, the truth of the matter is this. It has been tried even with this pandemic. Sweden tried it. That experiment didn't work.
The UK tried it, tossed it out.
That didn't work. In fact, what worked was they got a new, variant. It may work, but at what cost? How many people need to die, even as you talk about the infection rate getting to almost 100% of the population of that country? Then how many people need to die? Forget being infected. How many people need to die before you can actually achieve it? Remember, the herd immunity that people talk of is with reference to other plagues, to other pandemics. This particular one is still a stranger to us. There are so many things we don't really understand or know about this. Right now, people are grappling with the issue of clots. Okay? I venture to say that when other vaccines are rolled out in the same magnitude as the AstraZeneca vaccine was rolled out, you will find similar issues. So the question that will be asked is it something to do with the virus itself, or is it the vaccine? Because remember, the vaccine and the virus are related. Eh?
Yes, they are.
Yes. So please consider that. Johnson & Johnson are now being hit. Which other vaccine? We're waiting for the Moderna one. The only time you can justify any comparative analysis is when all these vaccines that we've been speaking of, okay, are rolled out on a large scale. Because when you're given authority, okay, for emergencies, my friend, it's still experimental. Do not be fooled for a second. It is still experimental. It is being collected. And this is the best way of determining whether this thing actually works. One, large diversity, one, large populations. We then now have an idea of what can happen.
Clots.
Clots. And then the issue of clots has to be asked. Were the clots going to be there without the vaccine? Is the vaccine accelerating something that was likely to happen? What is it? Because one of the things, again, that very many medical practitioners are talking about is that people who have the likelihood of actually being COVID positive, or people who are COVID positive, they're being asked to take blood thinners, take aspirin. Why? It appears, it's already been noticed that when you have COVID, the likelihood of your blood clotting in a way that you don't want it is high. Vaccine hasn't been spoken of here, just COVID.
Just the virus itself.
Yes. It's early days yet, and there's a lot that we'll be discussing, a lot that will be known.
My God.
But I think more and more, this is where now people who work in this field need to take the point of communicating this information that they have so the public knows and understands.
For sure.
Because if you're hit by a reporting and there is no background knowledge to it, you will go by what is reported.
Yeah. That this thing is bad. It's causing you clots in the brain. Why? It's 17 minutes after 6. Time for a break as the live stream is up. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And the portal is still active, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. This is where you go and get all the jobs that have been advertised by various organizations, either jobs or some of them are just looking for consultants. Go and register yourself and say, this is the kind of expertise that I have, or this is the area that I'd be interested in getting job alerts from, and then you'll be alerted every time such a job is advertised. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Time for us to take a look at the weather and then look at the headlines. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The realest and craziest couple are now on your screens. Terrence and Chebi are bringing you top celebrities and trendsetters on Thursday Night Live. It's double the fun and double the laughter every Thursday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, Nairobi is mostly cloudy this morning. Rain in some parts of the city. We'll see highs of 25 today and lows of 17. It's partly cloudy in Nyeri at 14. Highs of 24, coming back down to lows of 14. Chance of rain later on. Clear skies in Nakuru at 14. Highs of 28, coming back to lows of 14. 12, clear conditions in Eldoret. It's going to go to highs of 26 today. 28 will be recorded as a high in Kisumu. It's partly cloudy at 19. Kakamega is partly cloudy at 19 as well. Highs of 29, lows of 17. 26 will be the low in Mombasa, where light rain throughout parts of Mombasa town. Highs of 31. Highs of 31 as well in Malindi. Light rain at 27. Clear conditions in Kampala at 23. Highs of 28 and lows of 19. It's mostly clear in Dar es Salaam at 24. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 24. Clear skies in Johannesburg this early morning. 25 the high and lows of 13. Mostly clear in Lagos at 28, going into a very warm Thursday at 34 the high, down to lows of 27. Clear conditions in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 32, lows of 24. Also looking at sunny skies in Beijing at 18. They'll see highs of 23 and come back down to lows of 8. It's clear in Paris at 3. Quite chilly still, highs of 11 and lows of 2, and it's also clear in London at 3, going to highs of 10 and lows of 0. Coming into Thursday morning in New York in a few hours. Right now it's 13, highs of 21 and lows of 11.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
6 million people online.
Yes, there are this Thursday morning. Jeffrey Machamatune from Kisumu Kibos. Cyprian Mwahura says, good morning, Team Spice FM. Happy to be up and early today. Tuning from Nakuru County. Beda Ashley, good morning, my dear. Good morning, Spice Team. Mombasa, well tuned in. And that's from Robert Mbogo. Loving the morning show. Eric Gatonga, good morning to you. Betty Donna Jamoko says, good. Good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good, no? Jose Mina Ndohio says, good morning, Spice FM. Spicing my morning tea from Malindi. Karibu sana. Welcome on board, crew. That's Lucy Wakambo, listening from Nakuru. And good morning, listening from Chuka. And that's Gilbert John Masawe. Atakama Wamelok. Hawajalok Spice FM. All right. Noah Nasiale is tuned in this morning. George Wafula, CT, you are right. No soul out here believes in job applications anymore. Kama una mtu wa kushika mkono to apply ni kazi. Nilijaribu na za NMS juzi. Hata notification ya kuonyesha application email yangu ilifika sikupata. Sheesh. Yeah. Mila Manga, always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to have you in the room. Gishogo is wet and humid, according to Washira Wilfred. Hey, Undusiti and Eric. Ondicho is locked this morning. McDonald Makanga says, good morning. Dagoretti Kaberia is listening. Good morning, everybody, and Karibuni Sana.
The show is a good place to be in today.
It would appear.
Alrighty, CT. Today's proverb.
Right. Since we're going with the alrighty, let me alrighty the proverb. Okay. A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea.
I was gonna say fly, then I remember there is a flea. It's been a long time since I heard about fleas.
A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea.
Yes, flea, that wildlife that you find in canines, felines.
Can
And here- it's wildlife.
It's wildlife.
Ayogopi Simba.
Nope. And they're quite resilient. In fact, there are those who argue that when going about their business, they engage four-wheel drive. Yes.
So at what point does a kiroboto become a jigger?
You see, flea.
Kiroboto is flea.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Flea, body, not foot. Flea, foot, infection, foot,
They
jigger.
enter inside, lay egg.
Lay egg become many, kiroboto become jigger.
Okay.
Grief.
All right, so let's take a look at the headlines. They're big.
Quite a number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Start
so
with this one on fuel.
Okay, state deal that kept oil prices from rising. So yesterday was the 14th of April. We expected to see that there would be change in fuel prices. What we did see was that there was an increase in the landed cost of fuel, right? It rose from 49.84 shillings the last month to 53.99. Now, when you see a rise in the landed cost, the only expectation in your mind is that then you would see a rise then in the output product of fuel. So the expectation was that fuel would have been more expensive by a few more shillings. What they've been able to do is that they've been able to somehow reduce the margins then that they would get in terms of profit as the marketers. And that meant that the fuel prices then would remain steady, that they did not see an increase as we expected to see. So they take a hit, is what is being looked at now, and they take a hit of about 7 shillings profit, or non-profit in this case, that they would have otherwise gotten. So they have to work within lower margins, and the government promised to compensate them on a later date. I say, okay, let's keep it as it is. Let's not raise the prices of fuel, you know. It's been touted as a populist move by government to make sure that they don't get any kind of public backlash and outcry to have raised the fuel prices so significantly last month and then do it again in this month. So let's look at some of the numbers. 57.58 shillings, that's the taxes per litre on petrol, and they've gone up from 57.33 in the previous calculation. 121.81 is the cost of super petrol in Nairobi from today to May 14th. 53.99 is the landed cost of super petrol that rose from 49.84 previously. 7.95 is what in shillings is what oil marketers will earn. And that is 4.44 shillings less per litre of super petrol sold, down from 12.39. So they've lost just about 7 shillings from the last time. Okay, so fuel prices have not gone up, and the reason that they've been able to do this is that the oil marketers took a hit, and the government says, all right, let's just do this for now, and later we'll see how we can make it up to you, all right? So that is basically what happened, and we'll see what happens in the next 20, 30 days in terms of petrol. But for now, okay, where it was last month is where we are right now.
So this one is quite interesting because it's about the fuel development levy, right? Came up a couple of years back. There was a lot of backlash on it from the people saying, now, surely, government, you're introducing another levy just like that, and just saying, this one will be for cushioning Kenyans. Cushioning Kenyans where? At that point, when it was being introduced, the PDL, Cabinet Secretary for Petroleum, John Munyes, said, it will be used to stabilize prices. So guys were like, you're actually increasing the price of fuel so that you shall stabilize the price of fuel.
Explain that logic.
Explain it. So now here it comes to pass that it's now being applied. That the law at that point was the regulations were saying that it would be used to subsidize diesel prices and even only after the cost of crude oil went past $50 a barrel. That per barrel cost of crude has already breached the $50 since February, More recently, the Petroleum Ministry has said it cannot draw from the fund because there are no regulations in place to enable it to do so. It has said it's working on draft regulations. So they came up with a levy. They didn't come up with a fund with the regulations on. So once we have put money into this pot, how shall we dip our hand in the pot? When we need to do that, we'll come up with regulations. So who has been made to suffer? The oil marketing companies are the ones who've been told, especially the wholesalers, are the ones who've been told, now you guys, you're not going to get some money for now. We'll work on how you can get money at a later date from this fund. How much does the fund have? Was this fund actually ring-fenced such that we know that the National Treasury has not been able to dip its hand into this fund? Is there money in this fund? Questions. What we care about is to see that the price has not gone up. But then, see, we now go back and start talking about since February, when this price went to above $50 a barrel. Why didn't you apply this law?
Why couldn't it have been done then?
Why couldn't you do it at that point?
You could, you just don't. Yeah. That's the way I see it. You could. And that's what I said last time when we saw this and people started crying. I said, look, you cannot tell me that there's nothing that they can do to make sure that the burden on the shoulders of the consumer is not so much. There must be something you can do. Then we come and find out a month later that truly, actually, there's something that you can do. You just don't. You just don't.
You know, when you talk about the realms of possibilities, I didn't believe for the longest time that social media could actually have, beyond the Arab Spring, any great influence on things. I have changed that view considerably. When the IMF actually responded to the barrage of attacks that the Kenyan forces within the realm of the social media decided, those are Kenyan forces. Special forces, okay? And they actually responded, and not once, but twice. I said, okay, this thing actually does have an effect. I also believe that those same social media warriors, when they get their minds together and set to an agenda, okay, somewhere along the line, people do listen. Because why are these individuals revising something that didn't need revision in the first place?
Yes.
If they'd just played fair and stopped looking at the profits and lining their pockets, if they just hadn't done that to begin with and just done what was in the best interest of the country, the discussion would have been completely different. This U-turn and about turn that we're now witnessing did not have happened. Remember when we asked the question, but you know, oil prices have gone down. You're given a story, well, you know, it starts with, well, you know. The time at which we committed to buying this, it's always a long, lengthy story. Always. And yet, it's quite simple. Oil. What is the landing cost of that oil? And why must it be that cost?
Yes.
And what is within our control?
Yes.
And the things within our control, we're always being convinced it isn't really within our control. Somebody else is controlling it.
Yep.
And yet now we see it has always been within our control.
There's something we could do about it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's 6:30. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Let's see how the roads look like this early Thursday morning, and then we'll look at more headlines.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
We've been all through it, you know. We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades, and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing, and interview coaching. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth
Okay, let's start off with what
jazz.
visibility looks like on the roads this morning. Because of the rain, especially looking at areas like the southern bypass, from Gitaro to Lenana this morning, poor visibility. It is raining heavily in that area right now. You want to be very careful. Unfortunately, we've been seeing some accidents hitting wildlife here and there. A couple of days ago, it was a giraffe. Today, unfortunately, it's been a lioness that has been hit, and this is the road headed towards the direction of past Mombasa out then towards Lamu. So watch out for that one. All right. Let's look at Mombasa Road. It's already building up.
A lion.
Lion
Simba.
hit by a vehicle.
Lion.
Lion.
Where exactly?
Lioness, actually.
Yes, lion. Where?
Past Mombasa headed towards Lamu.
You know, between Mombasa and Lamu.
So me, I'm just telling you what has been reported. Don't now start bringing science. Look, Mombasa Road.
You have Mtwapa, just to centers. You have Kilifi, you have Malindi.
Now take it between there and there. There's a lion that has been hit by a vehicle this morning. Okay. So let's look at some more details of what traffic looks like in a bit. All right. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch, or text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, so good morning to you.
Mornings done right.
Teso North Omei Village Carry. Wow, okay. Let me start from the beginning. Angurai Teso North Omei Village Karurikit.
Kakurikit.
Yeah, that one. He says this Thursday morning he's reaching quite a number of people, but he's asking a question: when will this pandemic come to an end? He's not happy.
Not soon.
He's not happy with this pandemic.
Not soon. Not soon. Not soon. Normalcy, as we know it, will not be what we knew before the pandemic. It will be us living with the pandemic and knowing how to cope with it. That will be normalcy.
Hey, greet the people he's greeting. He's saying he's tuned in with
his mom, Florence Nasike, his brother Dan Ekirapa, and Lieutenant Crispin Etiang.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. That is in Teso North. Thank you very much for tuning in, Ekirapa. Okay, more headlines.
You want me to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So, according to Justice Martha Koome, judges saved Kenya from a crisis in 2017 elections. Court of Appeal Judge Martha Koome has explained why a 3-judge bench issued an order suspending a High Court ruling on the eve of Kenya's repeat election. High Court Judge George Odunga had declared that all the 271 returning officers and their deputies were illegally appointed just a day before the 2017 repeat election. However, hours after he had delivered the judgment in favor of activist Khalif Khalifa, Court of Appeal judges, who included Koome Fatuma Sichale and Erastus Githinji, suspended the order and the elections went on. However, the decision stoked a complaint by Khalifa, who accused the three of them of among other things, issuing the ruling without giving him a chance to reply. He also claimed that they sat to hear the matter after the designated office hours. While being interviewed for the post of Chief Justice by the Judicial Service Commission yesterday, Justice Koome explained that she was informed by the Court of Appeal registrar that the then president of that court, Justice Paul Kihara, who is the current Attorney General, had constituted a bench of the 3 and had certified the appeal as urgent. Now, basically what she's saying in one of the answers that she was giving is that judges, in their discretion, essentially are the ones who saved the country from going into crisis during this time because of the decision that was made then. Of course, pointing to the importance of the decisions that are made with discretion at that point.
Where was the crisis exactly?
Asked what she would do.
It was a day before. Remember, Khalif Khalifa had gone to court. Now, after the Supreme Court decision to nullify the election, Khalif Khalifa had gone to court and said the IEBC has hired the returning officers unprocedurally. So they are illegally in office. This was agreed by, that's what Justice George Odunga had ruled and said, yes, I agree with the application. Then the IBC went to the Court of Appeal to appeal this. The President of the Court of Appeal receives the application. The President constitutes a 3-judge bench, and the President directs the registrar to alert the judges that they need to sit and do this. Justice Kome says, I receive an order from the registrar, says the President of the court has constituted a bench, and I sit on the bench. I look at the matter, and as far as I understood it, it was an ex parte hearing. We do not need to look to hear from the parties. We're just looking at the application, what has been decided by the High Court, and we made our ruling and said, no. The IBC officials are in office legally. Following morning, IBC goes ahead and conducts the repeat election.
This is...
Later, the matter went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court later ruled and said, in fact, the Court of Appeal should not have listened to this matter. So here's a question now being asked of Justice Martha Koome. So why did you do that?
Why did you do that at that
Why did you,
time?
first of all, you sat, the Chief Justice had not approved that this matter goes the way it went. And Justice Koome is like, my immediate supervisor is the President of the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
The communication comes to me through the registrar of the court. It's come to me formally. I follow the instructions. Now, whether the President of the Court of Appeal has not gotten concurrence with the Chief Justice, that's not my issue.
That is absolutely true. Also, see, with hindsight, things always have a different tint. Because there are those who argue that Justice Odunga didn't have the jurisdiction to even hear the case in the first place.
Yes.
Okay? Now, when you have a situation such as the one that we have, where we now want a new Chief Justice, and we're also looking for a judge of the Supreme Court, okay? The question that I've asked myself, why is it that the judges in the Supreme Court themselves, do you see any of them vying for this particular job?
No.
What do they know that the rest of these people don't seem to know? Because they're already in the Supreme Court. Okay? Question number one. Question number two. When questions are asked, and there are many questions being asked, and they are reported, okay? Are all the details of what pertain to that particular question really brought in the reporting? Because it appears, and the way it's presented, as though Justice Koome did something wrong.
Yeah.
And yet, when you read it, she was following procedure.
And according to her, beyond the procedure, she said that action that was taken, the decision that was made, essentially averted a crisis as pertains
She looked at it from
the
all
2017
the merits.
elections.
All the merits of the matter that they were considering is, so this is the eve of the election, all right? We're already seeing the tension that has been there since the ruling of the Supreme Court, okay? Now, with all those things, put them together, shake them.
What is pertinent? What do we need to do
what
now?
do we need to do
now? You know why I'm bringing this thing up is I was thinking about the processes that perhaps I have observed a lot more often because they've had Supreme Courts longer than we have. That's in America. But they have their houses of representatives talking to or questioning the would-be appointees. Okay? Many of the questions that are brought to these people can be even intrusive. Okay? But you get the impression that somebody who is gunning for such a position, they want to look at your life with a microscope. And I'm asking myself the question, who in that entire system, if their lives were looked at through a microscope, would actually come out clean, squeaky clean, without something that could be pointed and said,
They'll
what
always
about
have
this?
something. There'll always be a question.
Yes.
I think the thing is, do you have a reason for what you did?
Is it something that can be justified and can be looked at
And context.
Yes, because really, hindsight doesn't often give you context.
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
Well, she was also asked, remember, Justice Martha Koome was once a FIDA chairperson. She was asked about matrimonial property. She explained that getting married to a wealthy person is not a certificate to wealth. If I got married today and I have some property, my spouse is not entitled to that property. And if I got married and my husband has some property, I am not entitled to it because that is his property.
That's a very liberal view of things,
I'm
isn't
telling
it?
you. And it got a lot of people thinking many things yesterday when she said that. Because the entitlement that comes, the perceived entitlement that comes then with marriage, then was rattled at its very core yesterday. Because folks were saying, hold on a minute.
No, but her point is valid.
Absolutely it is.
It's
It is.
valid.
You've come. Both of you have come with something. Now, does that mean because you are in a union, then now everybody is privy to the to rights of this property?
Usually, it is assumed that that is the case.
So that means
Because you say all
get
that I
married
have
to,
is yours
you
and
get
all
married
that
to
you have is
somebody who
mine.
comes from a rich family. You're actually not entitled to that inheritance.
No.
No, you're not related.
But are you married
You're
to the whole
actually
family?
not related to your spouse.
But this guy is going to get inheritance.
You are not related to your spouse.
So why get married?
Your relation, if you have children, are your children
Your
or your
children.
child.
Your spouse is not your
wife
relative.
is not your relative.
So forget
Or your
it.
husband is not your
He's
relative.
not your
Just-
relative.
yeah,
Forget it. So let's just come clean now.
that is your business partner.
What if you argue that the inheritance was passed to you after we got married?
As who?
See, as my husband or as my wife. So you get married to somebody. Yes, they come from a rich family, but it hasn't been divided.
No, but if
The
that-
will hasn't been, the person
Yes.
hasn't died. So their father or their parent, whoever dies, and then at that point is when their property is given over to you. And you're married now.
still doesn't
So
mean-
is
Who
it- is
who
it-
is it given to? Is it given to you
Is
as a
it given
couple,
to you as a
couple, or is it given to that
the
individual?
individual who is related to the person who is deceased?
You see, the issue here is property that is acquired during marriage. It's not that whether we acquired it jointly, we went to work together and then we went and invested together. No, it's acquired during marriage. If during marriage you are working and we bring home a salary, you can't say that that's my salary because I'm the only one who worked.
No,
During
no, no, no.
marriage, that's it.
No, but she was. I
So
think
during marriage, right? Our lawyer reads a will and says, so and so has left 10 million shillings for so and so. And you're married. So that now becomes matrimonial property.
But yes, in this case, it's during marriage. It's not what you brought to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not what you brought to the table. You
You
acquired
see,
it
you see
in the
now
process.
the argument that I have read of is an environment within which that property could be accumulated was provided for. And that is why that marriage. So you have a say and you have a stake. You know something? I think it would behoove those who are married or think of getting married to understand what our laws stand for.
Very much so.
It's important right now
Very
because
much so.
you know the traditional way of thinking where people said, because I am male and I come from this particular place,
So
it's
therefore-
only the males who inherit land. You know that story went out of the window. Huh?
A long time ago.
It did a long time ago.
Sisters have the same say. Now, it gets complicated. What about your sister's children? If the sister of that home has a say, can her children then inherit? Remember the traditional way of thinking. No, you inherit from the father, isn't it? Yeah. Aha. So,
Tradition is being slowly chucked out the window, eh?
well, it's being legislated.
Tradition is
In
done.
various ways.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
I thought
okay.
it was also interesting, just quickly, I think we want to go to break, but there was a 15-year period that seemed to have been a gap in her career. And she was asked, why did you not put this in your CV? And she said, my CV is very long. If I put everything that I've ever done in my CV, we would spend days looking through it. He said, but there is a firm that bears your name with which you said you have practiced for 15 to 18 years. Why would you leave that out? And she said it was just, maybe it was just an omission. But they stuck on the point for a few minutes, saying that 15 years of your practice could not have not just been an omission. There must be a reason why you chose not to include this.
Okay,
in
did somebody
work that
point
you
out
have
what
done.
that thing was?
No, it's like they were trying to get it at. It would seem
They,
as
they
though
didn't want to say
you
it. They wanted
didn't-
her to say
They
it.
wanted her to say it. It would seem as though you chose not to include this in the work that you've done because there's something that you're trying to hide.
Remember there was the issue of property and declaring and KRA and all that?
Yes.
Okay. She also confronted something similar. And there was the issue of, well, you didn't really mention your spouse's property, etc., etc., etc. Sometimes the way this thing is presented, and here I'm going to the person who actually writes the report or the article, okay? Why must these things always appear as though somebody did something wrong?
Wrong, yeah.
Okay. Maybe not something wrong, but why didn't they do it?
Why didn't you put it in? 15 years is not a small time.
Even this matter of
in
wealth
your career.
declaration. So the JSC says you're supposed to give us wealth declaration for the last 3 years, and then the questions are being asked. So we note here that there's some wealth that you had 3 years ago that you don't have today. What's happening?
Let me ask you this
The
question.
declarations for 2020 were missing 3 parcels of land that had been listed a year earlier. And they're collectively worth 18.5 million shillings. She's asked, she says, no, I still own all the 3 properties. The exclusion was an oversight. I didn't put that.
You know,
It's an oversight.
By the way,
How do you...
actually, it can happen. It can. Because
How? Explain.
it's something I have encountered. It can happen.
Explain.
Especially when someone passes away. And, before the issue, the legal process is, there's a listing of what the person owned. My friend, it is not impossible. Wait. I am preambling what I want to say.
Okay.
It is being imputed that this person deliberately left this thing out for a reason. And that reason is being alluded to that this reason can't be something positive.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, this is what I was querying. Yes, it is right to query how and why it was forgotten and it seems significant. Significant to whom? Okay? And even as she says correctly, if you have a really serious CV, my friend, a long CV, and you've done many things, that could be left out.
Who told you to leave it? I mean,
No, left out means you forgot. It can be forgotten. I'm saying, is it not possible for someone to forget? That's what I'm asking.
it's possible for you to forget, but is it possible for you now to start listing and then you get to a certain point and then you jump to the current? So just indicate in those... Just
That-
indicate.
Yes, there has to be
Especially if you at that point you are still practicing, you are still involved in some gainful employment through a company that you co-owned. Just right.
Eric,
X
I'm
to
saying
this
there is a
shareholder director, this company
I'm
moved.
saying there is a reason, but must it appear as though there is something nefarious? This is what I am actually
Maybe
trying
it
to
is
say.
you who's reading like it's appearing like something nefarious, but the question has to be asked.
I have accepted that it must be asked.
And the question needs answers.
And did she not respond?
Yeah, she was responding like this and like that. And this is the questions that now you come in and ask yourself. Why are we seeing judges? You know very well the issue of wealth declaration and the requirement. It says 3 years, you give us 2 years. How can you say that's an oversight?
Eric, you know where I'm going
You
with this
can
discussion?
clearly see that last year, CT Muga, you said you owned a parcel of land. There's a parcel of land that you said you owed 2 years ago. It was there in last year's wealth declaration. In this year's wealth declaration, you have not listed it.
Why?
And we ask you, so what happened to this piece of land? Oh, no, I still own it. So how did you not include it? It was an oversight.
If I own
See,
20
even if
pieces
you're
of
in
land, I can forget 3.
You copy paste. The
Because
first
did
thing
it
that you
last
do
year. Why don't you just
is
take
you
that
just
thing
look
that
at
you did
last year's
year,
and you then see, okay, this one is still there, this
then
one is still
between
there, this
last
one is
year
still
and
there.
this year, anything
Whatever
that
you
you've
added.
you've added,
All
you've
right,
added to
all
the
right.
bottom of the list.
You two candidates for the for the position of Chief Justice. All right. So what you should look, folks.
You are applying to be the Chief Justice of the Republic. You know very well the matter of especially wealth will come up, the matters of your KRA tax compliance will. You know very well those questions will come up,
They
and you
will,
just
Eric.
go ahead and say,
Actually, there's
Just
somewhere I'm
another
going
site.
with this discussion. Do you want us to go for the break first before I say where I was going with this
say
discussion?
it, and then we go to the break.
You see, this issue of wealth declaration is a thorny issue, and it has never really fully seen the light of day. People always hee-haw about it. Remember, there was the determination that all public servants must declare their wealth.
Yep.
Goodness gracious me. How did that one go?
The way
Still a
we are
bit
seeing now.
rocky.
It's vague at best. At best, it's vague. It gets to the heart of who we are as Kenyans. People don't feel they want to tell people what it is that they actually own or explain the details of their net worth. Not really. Not really. And we are seeing it at that level. This is where I was going with this. Now, if you're seeing it at that level, you tell me, with that mindset, when issues of that nature come before a court, and you know how our people think, what do you think is going to be the treatment of such cases?
The judge will look at it and understand.
Thank you.
I understand where you're coming from. You forgot to add this. It's okay. I can understand. I mean, people forget things.
I myself forgot things.
Yeah.
3 whole pieces of land.
Okay. Now let's take that break.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word join to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It is 7 minutes to
94
7.
point-
Before you tell us what's on the Business Daily CT, let's just inform people that Barack Obama has lost his stepmother. The mother to Omar, Malik, and the others, has passed away at the age of 78 in London. So just a few days after, mourning their grandmother, now the family is mourning their mother. According to Malik, the family got information about the death of the matriarch from London. She died on Tuesday evening after a long battle with diabetes. The family also says she was old. So the former US President Barack Obama's father, Barack Obama Sr., had two known partners, Stanley Ann Dunham, that is Barack Obama's mother, and Malik's mother, Kezia Aoko. Haya, twende sasa kwenye Business Daily.
Right, page 2.
Yeah.
20 arrested over KCSE exam leakage. More than 20 individuals, including school heads, were arrested for leaking ongoing Kenya National Secondary Education to candidates ahead of a scheduled time. Right. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha said yesterday that arrests were made in Homa Bay, Garissa, Mandera, Kisii, and Kisumu counties. The perpetrators include center managers, that is school principals, supervisors, and invigilators. They were accused of exposing the contents of examination papers once released in the morning to the schools.
It's creeping back.
It is clearly creeping back.
It's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate. Go, what's the top of the Business Daily? Go.
Hey, late night meeting froze petrol prices hike.
Oh Lord! it had
So
to
there
be
was a late
night
night meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
These late night meetings,
They seem to yield quite a lot.
Panama Chezo?
yes. You see, late night meetings mean these hours of it, you must 5 o'clock. It can continue until the following morning.
Yes.
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 Right. Now, the energy regulator, it says, opted to cut suppliers' sales margin by 35%, or 4.44 a litre, to keep fuel prices unchanged and diffuse public outrage over a monthly review that would have pushed the cost to a historic high.
Okay.
My take, all along it could have been done.
All along, right?
All along it could have been done.
Yes. And yet here we are. And yet here we are. So we're going to be looking at the story of the KDF and that recruitment saga, and the story of the oxygen scandal in public hospitals in the next hour as we look at what is happening in our country. Top universities are on IMF's radar. These are the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, and Moi University. If IMF has its way, these three universities will be trim and more financially sound in the next 3 years. The three citadels of knowledge have caught the attention of the IMF not for their academic prowess, but due to their deepening financial woes. The universities are among select state-owned agencies lined up for IMF-backed structural reforms that are to cost thousands of jobs and overhaul management of these institutions. So this is what was happening. You know very well that a couple of years ago, when universities introduced the parallel degree programs, they made a lot of money. They went on a buying spree of real estate. And then the education CS then, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, raised the entry-level requirements for parallel degrees, and they saw a drastic drop in the people who were applying for this, and now they started hemorrhaging. So for that reason, there's 3 public universities have just basically been going to the government with empty bowls and saying, nipe shiringi, nipe shiringi, nipe shiringis. They have a combined workforce of more than 12,000 both academic and non-teaching staff who gobble up billions of shillings in yearly wages. The UON has the largest wage bill of about 8.7 billion shillings per year. KU has 5.6 billion shillings per year. 4.69 at Moi University, according to recent audits. Their expenditure on salaries and associated expenses is skewed against income, and any reforms to balance this will most likely lead to job losses. IMF is in town, my friends.
Think the money was just coming like that?
IMF is in town.
Believe me, there'll be more to this story because, okay, the universities made tons and tons of money. Yes, we're talking about it going this way and that way, but what did they do with that money? And if they actually bought these properties, what did they do with these properties?
They still have them there.
They still have, so we think.
So we think.
So we think. Because remember that it isn't just a question of the parallel system. Even those who, not everyone who applies for a loan from the government to study gets a loan.
Yep.
And even when you apply, you don't get the full amount.
You don't get 100%.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
So many parents still pay fees for university. So the question I'm asking is, given the numbers that we have and these fees, so one has to explain, this is what we make from the students, forget the parallel system, and this is what we do with it.
These are income, these are our expenditures.
Yes. Those are things that have to be asked and responses expected.
Things will bite each other soon in these citadels of knowledge.
What you will find probably helped with the hemorrhaging was the expansion of these universities, these satellite colleges.
Yes.
You'll find that is what actually really ate into it because you expand, and over a period of time, yes, there's students who come in, they pay, and then over a period of time, that dries up. But you've already expended money, you've put up buildings.
There's some capex that's gone in.
Yes.
Okay, keep it right here. The conversations continue into the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're always very happy that you're able to join us. And everybody who's saying good morning to us from wherever you are listening to the show from Nakuru, Jose Jays. Somebody's saying that they're not getting us in Mombasa. Joe Bouma. Hebu acha tuangalie hayo maneno alafu kisha tutakwambia shortly. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, guys, that stretch along General Motors is really causing a headache for a lot of folks this morning. We realize that the road has been cut basically in half. Reduced by half rather, and so we're going all the way from Cabanas towards General Motors, quite slow today. It's going to take some time to get out of this one, and all the traffic now feeding through this small bottleneck and then trying to head out is going to be an issue. Still closed at around Nyeri Stadium towards Bunyala Road roundabout, so use Langata Road and then through Bagathi Way, or then through Aerodrome Road towards then the city centre. It's flowing smoothly on the Eastern Bypass via Utawala. That's an option to use this morning. Longer, but it'll get you there quicker. Also the Southern Bypass and the newly completed ICD Road is the one to use as well. So not much traffic coming off of Thika Road into the CBD right now. It's not looking too bad. We'll keep an eye on this and see how it opens up in a short while. We're officially in the middle of traffic hour. Let's see how things pan out this Thursday morning. Talk to us if you need to. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
2.5 minutes after 7 o'clock. Good morning, and how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us this lovely Thursday morning, the 15th day of April 2021. As we begin the show, we want to acknowledge and welcome our viewers on KTN Home who will be with us from this point until 9 a.m. This show airs every weekday morning on SpiceFM from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. CT Muga, today's proverb.
A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea.
A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea. Kiroboto kwa simba. Noma. Simba kwa kiroboto, nothing. Okay.
You've summarized it really well.
Okay. Doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter the size.
That flea knows how to do a good job.
Yeah.
Yep. Knows how to make its presence felt.
So let's talk about the things that we talk about in the country all the time, right? And right now we are battling COVID-19. There is a lot that's happening in COVID-19 in terms of the government response to COVID-19, in terms of what programs have been rolled out on paper and what programs have actually been implemented for combating COVID-19. That's just one thing. And then very many other things. Now today we are looking at this beautiful surprise by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority for not hiking the fuel prices by 4 bob. And then it comes out that, oh no, you see there's this fund, the Fuel Development Fund levy, that is being used to cushion the consumer. But the oil marketing companies are going to be able to dip from that so that they can recoup their expected margins. That is one, and people will look at it and they're happy. The other day we were talking about the story that happened over the weekend in Nakuru County, where Nakuru County, and we spoke with the governor just a couple of days ago, and he said they have their own oxygen manufacturing plant in Nakuru County, and the plant is actually supplying, was it 5 other counties that we talked about?
Yes.
Around the region.
7, yeah, actually.
And the health facilities in Nakuru County itself. Unfortunately, a couple of days ago, there was a mechanical problem with this particular facility. And it led to a shortage, a drop in the amount of oxygen that's being produced in a day. And yet we had patients in the high dependency unit who were on supplementary oxygen. They died because there was a deficit of about 40 cylinders of oxygen from this facility. 3 patients died. And County Health Executive Geshoke Kariuki termed the deaths as unfortunate, but said more lives could have been lost had they not acted swiftly. Today, the ICU facilities in Nakuru remain overwhelmed, even as the rest of the country heads into an acute oxygen crisis. So there's a story now today that looks at what has been happening in other parts of the country. Kenyatta National Hospital does not have an oxygen manufacturing plant because it broke down 5 years ago. According to the CEO, he says, we had an oxygen plant a long time ago. It lived its time. It worked for 15 years, but we have not had an oxygen plant since 2016. This is according to KNH Chief Executive Evanson Kamuri. Dr. Kamuri said consumption of the hospital has increased by about 150%, and its intake has nearly doubled because of COVID-19, but it currently does not have the required resources to put up a facility. For you to have an oxygen plant, you need 200 million shillings. How much is KNH spending every year buying oxygen from the oxygen manufacturing companies in the private sector? 150 million shillings every year, buying gases in bulk. So, and the doctor says, we don't have money that we can actually set aside to do this. We have all the other competing interests. All the money that comes in goes into others. But we have applied to the Ministry of Health, and we have told them a number of years that we would appreciate this support from the ministry so we can set up a plant. That is in KNH Nairobi. What is happening in other parts? In other counties, there are counties that set up in Homa Bay, the county government spent millions of taxpayers' money establishing an oxygen plant. However, the machine located at the county referral hospital with a capacity to produce 80 liters per minute malfunctioned even before it could start its work. Today, with health facilities across the county, they are relying on oxygen bought from a private entity. The gas is delivered in 9-kilogram cylinders, and the referral hospital has 40 such cylinders. A senior officer within the health department who did not want to be named said the hospital, which has the main ICU ward for COVID-19 patients, relies on gas manufactured and supplied from other counties. That is Homa Bay County. Let's go to Vihiga. The oxygen plant procured from France is not operational due to low electricity supply at the referral hospital in Bale town. According to Governor Wycliffe Otichilo, when a test run of the plant was done, other units such as the dialysis center went off, causing a scare. Otichila says Kenya Power has recommended installation of a bigger transformer, and now they are waiting for quotation from Kenya Power to install a larger transformer that can run all the equipment uninterrupted. In Migori County, an oxygen plant has been non-operational since its launch in 2019. A spot check at the Migori County Referral Hospital revealed that the plant, with a daily production capacity of 1,000 liters, is lying idle. The plant is there but has been inactive since its installation in 2019. Patients in dire need of oxygen are referred to hospitals in neighboring counties. A medical officer told the nation this clashed with Public Health Chief Officer Pauline Amolo's statement, who had said that the plant is fully operational. In Kisumu County, the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital is facing an acute shortage and needs to install additional machines that can produce at least 500 liters of liquid oxygen per minute. The hospital has 2 oxygen plants with a capacity of 230 and 116 liters per minute, respectively. This capacity is dedicated to theatre and ICU. Normally, this would be enough to run the hospital operations. However, because of COVID, the capacity has been overrun. This is a story in various counties. On a matter of oxygen, money has been spent, yes, by the counties. Facilities have been put up by the counties, but in some of these cases, according to the reports that we're seeing, the facilities are not operational because of one reason or the other, technical issues. In the reports, I'm sure, you'll see these counties reporting that they have functional units. And that's one of the reasons why then you'd see a county like Nakuru being overwhelmed, because it's not just supplying Nakuru hospitals, it's supplying hospitals around the region. In Nairobi, East Africa's largest hospital does not have an oxygen plant.
It broke down 5 years ago.
Yes.
5. Now, if it broke down 5 years ago, how do we know that even if you try to revive it, it would actually be operational? And at what cost?
This is what we are dealing with today in the country. When questions are asked, you're given answers here and there. There's an oversight there. There's no, it's working, it's fully operational. No, maybe it's not. Maybe it's this and the other. Just one case. The other case that has been in the news lately is with regards to getting employment at KDF. There was a recruitment exercise. There was sufficient warning to people. Please do not be scammed. Do not be scammed. Nobody should take your money so that they can secure for you a spot in a KDF recruitment. What are we seeing? 55 suspects arrested in a crackdown by military police last week in an effort to break a cartel behind fake admission letters. People have spent hundreds of thousands of shillings in fake admission letters to get to these facilities. Obviously, by the time somebody is even giving you some fake letter, they could be working with somebody within the system. That's there. There's another story that has been in the news lately about a teacher in Narok County who walks 20 kilometers to deliver exam material to students at a certain secondary school. Matter is highlighted. What happens? The education officials who are in charge of making sure that the facilities are working well and teachers are well taken care of say, hey, now you are going to expose us. Now we're going to take action against the teacher. Disciplinary action against the teacher. Why? Because you've exposed the teacher. Let me read because the story was carried in the nation. Narok County College. So the teacher goes to a certain school. Narok County Quality Assurance Officer Robert Mosetti said they'll go ahead and take disciplinary action against Mrs. Kimani, the teacher. I wish you had consulted us before writing that story. The story has created a lot of attention and will lead to disciplinary action against Madam. On Google Maps, from Dikir to the school, it's 18 kilometers. Your story is saying 20 kilometers.
Oh, for crying out loud.
You're indicating that to and from the school is 40 kilometers. Surely.
It's just 36.
It's 18 from this there. You are causing an alarm over something that's not true. You should have talked to us to balance the story. Now it appears like we are not doing our work. We know from where she walks that there is no passable road. Yes, we know that. That is
Passable
what
to
should have
whom?
come out. That you should have talked about the road. Okay?
You know,
Because that's somebody else. What's coming out is that the education office has neglected its teachers and is not providing adequate transport for them.
isn't that just the truth? You see, I'm glad you've read it. Huh? It gets to the heart of the matter. Look at how those who have the responsibility of carrying out certain functions within our system, look at how they react. That's the mindset.
Yep.
Why are you exposing us? It has nothing to do with this thing that has been brought to our attention needs to be sorted out. How do we ensure that that does not? Because if that lady is walking 20 kilometers, believe me, there are other people who are also doing the same.
There are actually other teachers who are walking longer
Yes,
distances.
it can't be that is the only stretch of road that is impossible. Okay? It's not just the education ministry. You then have to ask questions to the MP, CDF, county. Why is it that you do not have a path that is passable even by a motorbike? And we know that the proliferation of motorbike transportation in this country is vast. Why is it not so? It brings to the fore the heart of the matter. Those in public service believe that it is their right to function within the umbrella of impunity. They believe so. And if you question it, it is you who's wrong.
I'd be very interested to know what kind of disciplinary action they're going to take against this woman. The question being what?
Falsifying
That you
information.
falsified information. So you've essentially said that it is 40 kilometers to and fro to go and pick these exam papers, where in reality it is 36 kilometers.
According
because
to Google
it
Map.
is not 20 kilometers to and 20 kilometers from. It is actually 18 kilometers
Yes.
to and 18 kilometers back.
According to Google
So
Map.
according to Google Maps, so you even have the sense to go to Google Maps and check, but you don't have the sense to think beyond the issue and say, why is this individual having to walk to go and pick exam papers and come back? So again, another example of how responsibility is 100% shirked. So you're not asking the question, why is she having to go through this laborious task of walking to and fro to pick exam papers? Why is it that she has not been facilitated to be able to get this job done better? Now you want to come and shout and say that you were off by 4 kilometers. That's the problem. You falsified information.
Were we really off by 4 kilometers?
So this is according to Google Maps.
Yes.
Which we will use a direct line. What is the situation right now?
Actual.
Maybe there's a bridge that has been swept away. And therefore, that makes her to have a detour, to make a
Eric,
detour.
maybe there's a road that was swept away.
An entire road that was swept away.
Yes.
Here's the other thing. This particular head teacher, apparently, she reported to this school. She was transferred to this school in January. The handover was not done at the school by these education officials. They met at the local center at Imuru Dikir, not at the school. Okay?
Why?
That tells you these guys, how often do they go? They were like,
Mbali.
wewe kuja hapa bwana.
And
They-
you know the handover has
can't
to
go
be,
there.
the handover has to be at the school. Huh?
Yeah. So Siana High School, they were actually doing this at Emuru Dikir. This is in Transmara East, Narok County. Public officer there talks this. Public officers elsewhere talk this. We get to a point now where we are basically just dealing with things that we don't know, and we are throwing barbs and excuses left, right, and center of the
There's a
country.
word for it.
Uh-huh.
Why is there?
Nonsense.
Look at that vicious reaction.
Mm.
Reality, she walks a distance.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Nothing falsified there. Google Map. You know, have you ever tried using Google Map to go to a place you don't know? They will give you directions, yes. I once drove on a riverbed following a Google Map. I'm not blaming Google Map. The riverbed was dry, by the way.
Thank God.
Google Map simply gives you directions that it understands
it and sees
from an aerial
shortest
position and
distance.
from what? That thing up there is called satellite. A. If a new road was built before updating that system, it will not tell you. There could be a shorter road, but what is used could be longer. Reality on the ground. But let me leave the distances aside. Yeah?
Look at these two examples that you've given today. A couple of them with the oxygen story. Look at Kenyatta National Hospital now. Had it not been for the vast need for oxygen in the country at the moment, would you have known that there was an oxygen plant at Kenyatta National Hospital that fell apart 5 years ago and they've not been able to fix it? Would you have known?
I wouldn't have. You do not know. I was actually gaping with amazement at the number of counties that claim to have oxygen plants, most of which are not working at all.
So the
Some
Nakuru one fell
from
apart.
day one, meaning they have never worked.
So there's another one.
Some were
There's an
designed not to
oxygen-
work.
Yeah, there's an oxygen plant, and then so there's oxygen plant, then there's dialysis machine. The problem in between is power. So you put the power on, you put the oxygen plant on, dialysis machine fails. Can you imagine those are the issues that we are talking about? That the problem why this thing cannot work is because there is not a sufficient supply of power.
And yet,
Today-
when it was being designed, you clearly knew the power requirements of this machine. You know the power requirements of the entire hospital facility. Kenya Power are not in Uganda. They are in Kenya. They have an office close by. You did not ask them to do so how much power do we need? Do we have that capacity? What else do we require? As we're installing this machine, what are the power requirements? So Kenya Power, will you be able to supply us? No, you guys will need a bigger transformer. So how much would that transformer? Include the transformer cost. You fix, you install, and then, washa. Boom, off.
What is going on? You have to ask the question.
Somebody
what is
going through
on?
dialysis, lying on a ward, power goes off. The people who are attending to them wonder, oh my God, what happens? And in kumeendaje, watu wamewasha machine ile ingine.
And then there will be a generator. Then you'll be told that
No
eternal
fuel.
story. No fuel. You know, when you talk of impunity and how deeply rooted it is, COVID is helping us understand the depth with every passing day. Something happens. Before this crisis of this third wave, this issue of oxygen was discussed on the periphery, but not in the detail that we are now discussing because of the need that has arisen.
Yes.
And what do we see? What do we see? The same story that we have heard with ministries and with other functions where something is started, but it was never intended to actually function. The idea was to bring out a situation that would require an expenditure. And once the money was expended, as far as they're concerned, it's done.
You know, the former Chief Justice, Dr. Willie Mutunga, was reported to have said something in 2016. He said that Kenya has become a bandit economy. That's what he said. According to him, the country's citizens are at war with mafia-style cartels run by political bosses and corrupt business people. He said, Kenya harbors mafia-style criminals similar to Al Capone's mob in the 1920s America, and that this cartel collects millions every day. That is what he said. Just the other day, as the Senate was discussing the county revenue allocation bill, the division of revenue bill, this is what Senate Minority Leader James Orengo said.
There was a time in Italy, if you stole something, and I think that's how they came into control, you would just find somebody on a motorbike shooting you they didn't shoot to kill, they just shoot you on the knees to disable you. In some nations, you are taken to the firing squad, but you are a country of laws. But I don't know what happens. Like when you look at the reports of the Auditor General, I think we are gangsters. We are a nation not just of thieves. This is a bandit economy. And we must describe it as such. And we cannot say that the people of Kenya are wrong. It's those who are given responsibility to look after these institutions. And no wonder when you call them, Madam Speaker, in the houses of Congress in the United States, if you are summoned to appear before House of Congress, however mighty you are, you will leave everything to appear before House of
Gangsters.
That is who the responsibility lies with. Gangsters. You know, it sounds like, how can you go so far? Why would you make such an accusation? Why would you call folks that? But is this anything different? Is it anything different from the people that have the responsibility to make sure that people are taken care of? You should do something to make sure that a process is seen from the beginning to the end and it is not happening. Should they be called less than gangsters or bandits?
That's where we've gotten. Let's take a break and then continue this conversation. And the conversation this morning is basically just getting off the back of what Senator James Orengo has said, what former Chief Justice Dr. William Mutunga said. We have become a bandit and gangster economy. And it's because there are gangsters who basically have very, very deep roots in government and they're manipulating everything. And then people in government are not doing what they're supposed to do because they're part of this cartel. They are part of the criminal enterprise. Do you agree with what these two senior leaders have said? Senior leaders who participated in the second liberation of the country, Dr. William Mutunga, Senator James Orengo, they're saying, look, we have become a bandit economy. Let's take a break at 23 minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and online. We'll be back shortly.
Spice FM, Nakuru. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 2 hash to read the Nairobian e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line and stay up to date. The hottest talk of town with no additional charges.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
You better be ready. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m. only on KTN Home. It's the Shining Stars TV show moment. Get ready to be inspired. Get ready to be part of an exciting journey of discovery and learning with talented children.
Held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I had enough.
Get ready to be entertained by super amazing young talent. Because hii ni yetu, from our own talented stars, hosted by #1 TV host, Sleepy David. Shining Stars TV show, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. only on KTN Home. Be part of the journey.
All right, we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 17, highs of 25 today. A chance of rain later on during the afternoon. 14 degrees and partly sunny in Nyeri. 24 the high, 28 will be the high in Nakuru today. It's sunny at 16 at the moment. Mostly cloudy conditions at 13 in Eldoret. Highs of 26 today. Highs of 28 in Kisumu. It's partly sunny at 20. 29 will be the high in Kakamega. It's partly sunny at 19. Looking at light rain in Mombasa at 27. It'll go to highs of 31 today, back down to lows of 26. 27 will be the low in Malindi, where it's raining lightly at 28. And light rain also in Kampala at 23. Highs of 28 and lows of 19. Sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 30. 26 will be recorded as a high in Johannesburg. It'll come down to lows of 14. It's clear right now. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 27, getting very warm. However, at 34 is what the high will be. 32 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it's mostly clear at the moment at 23.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. traffic.
So you're on Mombasa Road and you're trying to get to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Well, you can get there, but you can't go past it because of the closure there. The traffic has stretched all the way past Bellevue today. Folks are trying to get there slowly, but surely, they say, wins the race. But as you get to the roundabout, you're going to have to go via Bagavi Way or Aerodrome Road, and that's connecting from Langata Road. Okay, it's moving at a snail's speed. In some cases, even slower than a snail, unfortunately, but we're going to have to sit through this one. All right, the Eastern Bypass, looking pretty good. The Southern Bypass as well can be used. If you've not gotten there yet, use that as an option to turn off Mombasa Road. You get to the CBD eventually. Let's look at Jogo Road. Getting off of at Landis Road at the roundabout at City Stadium. It's clogging up some as you get onto Landis Road into the CBD, but not too bad, not at the moment at least. We'll take a look in half an hour and see how that has panned out. Visibility was quite low coming from Westlands. Keep an eye on that and see how it is, but it doesn't look too bad getting into the city. Let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Want to keep things moving this Thursday morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
28 minutes after 7, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, we have CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif. We are talking about the state of our country, especially those in positions of leadership and authority and responsibility in our economy. Former Chief Justice Dr. William Mutunga in 2016 said, well, Kenya has become a bandit economy. Senator James Orengo, Senate Minority Leader, speaking in the Senate the day before yesterday, said, you know, we've gotten to a point where we can't even question. You question people and they think they are beyond reproach. They should not be asked any questions. We are seeing the stories of what's happening in the fight against COVID-19. Counties said they were deploying financial resources to develop wards, increase their bed capacity, increase their ICU capacity, increase their oxygen production. And we are now seeing several counties actually have something called some contraption in the name of an oxygen plant, but it doesn't function. East Africa's largest referral hospital, KNH, does not have an oxygen plant. It buys oxygen from the private sector. CS Mutahi Kagwe the other day held a meeting with the private sector, and they were all talking about how people need to bring back the oxygen cylinders so that we can help hospitals in the fight against COVID-19, to address COVID-19. Issues left, right, and center. How is it that this particular pandemic has exposed so many things that were just coming out glaringly to the public? This is what else Senator James Orengo said during that time when he was talking about the bandit economy.
But you have a situation in this country where the mighty are law unto themselves. And they begin to wonder why Senate will be summoning them. And these people actually, Madam Speaker, when anything comes, when there's a pandemic or a war or a disaster, again, they smell the coffee very quickly. I don't know whether you remember, Madam Speaker, when there was this thing about the funds for the National AIDS Program. It was wiped clean. And now COVID, they have wiped it clean at the national level and at the counties. And the people at the national level should not be taking the battle to the counties. It is both of them. Both the national government and the counties, they have stolen money which should have saved lives, should have built more hospitals, should have brought more equipment to hospitals across the land.
This is a Senate Minority Leader, an experienced legislator, a lawyer. He has chosen that platform to actually say, look, money has been stolen. Money that should have been used to address COVID-19 has been stolen. He was unequivocal about it. His choice of words, you can imagine, James Orengo wouldn't just go and say, has been stolen, if he knew that he would not have legs to stand on.
You know, the the money that relates to the care and treatment provision for people who were suffering from HIV and AIDS, at the very onset, before NGOs and other players were allowed into that field, it was government to government functions. And what we saw, and he alluded to it, but what we saw was the head of the body that was charged with perhaps overseeing this entire operation being jailed in this country. Not taken to court, jailed. Okay? And those who were funding this operation then decided that perhaps they should look for other players who can actually assist them in this. So these partnerships began to form. That's when NGOs came in. That's when other people who were in medical research also came in to provide services in this field. And then the monitoring and evaluation process that was then conducted by CDC came into full force, so that it wasn't just a question of you doing what you said you're going to do. They would come and ensure that what you said you're doing is what exactly is
They'd come and
done.
verify.
Oh, yes, they would. And that would determine. So instead of just giving out the funds, it then became competitive. You then had to prove that you are able to do what you say you're going to do. And they would look at your track record. And if you didn't meet the master, funding that had been given to you would actually be taken away from you. Literally, meaning you were given money for this service, you weren't performing. They didn't wait for the year to end or for the period to end. That year ended that year. It's a 5-year program. Believe me, you would be defunded. Somebody else would be given that money, and somebody who had proved that they could do what they're going to do. And that is the full scale of services that came under what you call care and treatment. But ask yourself this simple question. If you look at the subject of oxygen, the MES project that we've talked about at length in this show, 13 of those plans came with that MES. The Minister for Health tells us there are 75 plans. The gentleman who is actually in charge, who heads the committee, the chairman of the Council of Governors Health Committee, says that we have 58 oxygen plants. 58, 75, let's not quibble about that. But what he says that only 42 are functional. Those who argue and say that we have plants that are non-functional, say they aren't 42, they're infinitely less. Let's not quibble about the numbers. How is it then that a commodity that is necessary, and how do you know it's necessary? They aren't functioning, and then what do the counties do? They then go to East African Oxygen to buy oxygen. Now, does this make sense to you? You have a plant that can actually produce this commodity you need. It isn't functioning. You could repair it. It isn't repaired, but you then opt to buy, meaning the need was always there. The cheaper option has been shunted aside. If you want to understand how impunity works, COVID has provided us with the perfect opportunity to chronologically not just identify, but to understand how it works. And when you're talking about the value of life, the impunity we speak of does not value anything that is referred to as life. It values profit above. It values financial gain above life. How do you explain such a situation in a country like ours? You know, other countries don't even have plans, as we have them. And what becomes apparent is what Eric said. The plans are set up never to actually work. They're a conduit for ensuring that money is spent. How do you explain that?
I think there have been very many moments in the last 1 year that have presented themselves as eye-opening moments, because you talked about taking the option, the cheaper option of perhaps fixing the plant so that you have something to use. But I go beyond that and I say that in very many cases where the logical option could have been taken for very many things to happen, it wasn't. And the reason why it was not taken is not because people do not know or that people don't understand what the responsibility is, but yes, that again, money and financial gain has taken the seat above logic. It has taken the seat above the care of life. It has taken the seat above very many things. Yes, so when a senator stands on the floor of the House and says that money has been stolen, it's not something for us to think, oh, okay, it's just somebody speaking.
It's not that shaking.
No, imagine, it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's been stolen.
So?
Si tunajua.
We know that it's stolen. It doesn't rattle anybody. There are people who are snickering in the background because it's expected that that is what should have happened. But I'm saying now, that picture has been painted, right? The subjects of this picture are Kenyans who are dying on a daily basis. They're Kenyans who could actually have access to this better livelihood. I don't know what it needs to take for us to understand that life could be better, that you could actually have what you needed, that it could be possible for you to live this life without grumbling and complaining because you don't have what you need. If we actually look at what is really going on, funds are being stolen, people are dying that don't need to die. There are functions that are not being carried out that could be carried out very easily. What are we talking about? Let's just be serious here. Oxygen plants, oxygen, something as simple and as basic as oxygen, cannot even do that. Not because you are unable, just because you are unwilling. And the same thing we looked at with fuel now. And you say, oh, it's complicated because there are regulators and then there's the government. No, you can make a decision that you're going to make life a little bit more bearable for people and make decisions whereby a few people don't have to benefit so largely, but that many people can benefit a little bit at a time. When are we going to get to that point where the demand is made upon? Because listen to what James Orengo said. The people who bear the responsibility for making sure that they're taking care of the citizens of Kenya are actually robbing the cradle. Taking food from the mouths of Kenyans literally is what is going on here. Across board. Look, take your pick. Oxygen, fuel, education. Everywhere you look, throw a stone and it's going to land somewhere. What are we doing?
Ask yourself this question. Do you know why a country like China, and I like referring to that system as progressive, they consider these elements that we're speaking of, these individuals, the things that they perpetrate are crimes against humanity.
It's criminal.
Yes. They shoot you.
It's criminal.
Forget this story of they shoot you, okay? Because they've understood you're making a decision and you're taking an action that has a very direct negative influence on the lives of very many people. You know, let's not go to China. Let's just go next door here to Rwanda. It doesn't really matter which position you hold in that particular country. If it is demonstrated and it is proven to be true that you have tampered with the position you have of authority to gain, you will go to jail. You will go to jail. You have ministers in that country serving jail sentences. You will go to jail.
But you know what? I think the problem starts, it's deep-rooted. When an education official looks and determines that that school is too far, I'm not going to be visiting it all the time. That headmistress is new, I'm not going to be supporting her. And when the issue is highlighted, the first thing they do is they get really annoyed and they want to take action against that particular head teacher. When you see this kind of things happening in the various counties, there's a procurement officer there's a procurement committee, there's a tender committee that sat down and approved a certain tender. There's a technical team that looked at that did the technical evaluation of the bids, and they did not really ask themselves about power, and the equipment is installed, and now we are saying we are waiting for Kenya Power to give us. How long does Kenya Power take to give you a quotation? Really? And you're a county government and you have an emergency and it's a serious matter. How long would Kenya Power take? This is an excuse. By the time you're seeing public officers, with such kind of impunity, it comes from very far up in government. And this is why even CJ Mutunga, at the point when he was calling Kenya a bandit economy, he was saying, look, it's because what happens now in Kenya with corruption has become a very serious war between cartels. Wherever there's a change of government, some cartels benefit and others lose out. And those that lose out don't go out quietly. That's why the judiciary comes in, because the losers will come to court and say, under the constitution, this tender for this railroad did not have public participation. It was single sourcing. It was corrupt. They'll come and argue like that. But they are basically pushing their own private interests. Impunity has, extended its roots so deep in this community and our society because certain very influential people in government and in private sector work in cahoots. So that the government is basically a pot where you come in and you dip. All these things that we're talking about, there's private sector benefit. whether the private sector is somebody who works in government who set up their own private enterprise and they're doing business with government, or whether they are a conduit for another bigger private sector that they are working very well in tandem with, and they have a very good understanding of how we benefit, mutual benefit. That's where we are. By the time we become a bandit economy like this, it's because people have seen no action will be taken.
You can get away with it.
You have a law that is called, that talks about abuse of office. Yeah.
It exists.
Abuse of office.
Okay.
It is sour. All these things happen because people see nothing's going to happen to me. I'm being summoned by the Senate. I'll tell them, no, I was busy. And then I'll talk to them on the side, and then I'll appear before them and give them figures and say, but you know what, this one will need to come back to you because the CEC is away. This other particular matter, I'm going to... and the hearings take forever. The MES was being investigated by the same Senate that Senator Orengo sits in, and he's a leader of our Senate. And what was the result of the MES scandal? The report was not even adopted by the Senate. Why? Because they were saying this committee that was led by none other than Moses Wetangula has brought us a report, but this report is insufficient.
You don't even tell us who is responsible. Names have not been put here. We don't even know who's responsible. So who are we going to bring to book?
And it has just gone on like that.
Done.
It's quiet. We've been hearing some sittings of the National Assembly for the longest time investigating KEMSA scandal. The president instructed the investigative agencies, just give us, within 21 days, let's see action and a report on what exactly has happened at KEMSA. Do we know anything? It is so deep-rooted that indeed we can say that enyewe, we are in a bandit economy. The people who are in charge, the people who are actually in charge. You could say that, yes, you have a president, but maybe he's not actually in charge. He says things, and then there are people who pull strings, who go under, and he comes out and he's completely frustrated. That's why sometimes I actually look at Uhuru Kenyatta and I'm like, the president is actually, a lone ranger at some point.
Actually,
he comes out and says, okay, so let's take action. Let's do this. Let's do the other. Let's do the other. This thing is such a giant that you cannot just move it like that. You need a lot more. Maybe the president requires a lot more to do it. But the truth of the matter is there's something that is heavy. I was thinking the other day, the president decides to take action, goes to Parliament, in a national address in Parliament, shames members of his government and says, I have a report that there are some members of my government who are being investigated by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over misappropriation or abuse of office. And I am taking action because that's as far as I can go. Removes them from government. Cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries. Any of them in jail? Any of them has been convicted so far? Zero. Now you tell me. And this is a bandit economy.
But then do you really wonder why it is then, with such glaring examples, that all these things we speak of is then cascaded to the very, very basic level of society in this country? I got a call the other day from somebody who works in the barber shop that I go to. I do go to a barber shop from time to time.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And they were talking to me about their child, and the conversation disturbed me greatly. And they're saying, look, my child finished university, has been involved in this and the other and this and the other. And since you're someone I talk to, I wanted to find out if you know someone in government, because my son told me he has saved 100,000 shillings. Somebody we can give this 100,000 shillings so that he can get a job. I said, what? My reaction, the repeat, I said, no. Why don't you just keep that money? Why don't you and I meet and talk and see how this young person can be assisted? Avenues through which, because I know what the person has done, let's see what they can do, okay? But don't give anybody that money, because that money will disappear and that job will also not be given. Please don't do that. Why am I saying it disturbed me? See, what I read in the papers now came home. This is someone I know, because this is somebody I see fairly often when I go to have my hair cut and my beard trimmed. And I was thinking to myself, now, families put their money together to bribe so that their child can get a job. Now, this child has gone to university. They put up money to ensure this child goes through university. They took loans, they sold things The child has gone to university, has gone to college, has gotten a diploma, has gotten a certificate, has gotten a degree. Some have even gotten a master's degree. Now they want a job. And they feel the only way this person can get that job is if they put, again, money together to find someone whom they can bribe so that they can be guaranteed a job. You know, this is not a situation that you'd want any country to be in. That you're talking about a simple citizen of this country needing to think in terms of where to get money to bribe. Every year when you hear of employment within the disciplined forces, this story of bribery rears its head.
I said last year when they said that there was COVID, what did you call it, Kazia?
Kazim
Tani, that you were supposed to be earning a certain amount per week. And the people who were in charge of paying your money every week were of the understanding that they were going to take 600 shillings from your pay as a facilitation amount.
Somebody who's employed and paid a salary.
That is money that is supposed to be saving people in a time when COVID had hit the economy and people did not have work. So the understanding was that it's okay, you're going to be getting 600 shillings per day. So in a week, you're going to get 3,600 bob. So on Friday or whenever it is that you're going to be paid, just know that your money is going to be less 600 shillings. Nobody complained. Can you imagine? It has gotten to the point where the negative conditioning is so strong that people don't even complain about this anymore, that it is accepted, that it is understood that that's the way things are going to have to be. But at least we're getting something. And I'm saying that at least we're getting something mentality has robbed people of conscience. It has robbed people of even that idea that something can be done to you if you do something wrong. It doesn't exist. It is even accepted. But don't you understand? You got this job in the first place. And for us to keep it going, you have to give a tithe of your money every week so we can continue facilitating you. On the face of it, Kenya looks like this beautiful woman and she looks really nice. But inside, it's rotten to the core. It doesn't matter where you look. Take your pick, wherever you are. But in my opinion, something can be done. It's just not being done. Yeah. And I made a comment yesterday. Everywhere you look, something can be done. It's just not being done. I refuse to believe that those who sit where this impunity is taking place across the board look at it and say, well, this monster is just too big for me to start to pick at.
You know, the monster
you can make a move.
You, know,
you can do something about it.
Big. The monster actually isn't big because the real problem is that we are bequeathing a legacy to the generations that are coming of this fairly basic understanding that we are a country where corruption, as we call it, and impunity is the norm.
Yes.
And if you do something contrary, it is you who is actually
There's
wrong.
something wrong with
We've
you.
We've inverted this thing. We've contravened this thing so much and muddied this water so much so.
This is work that I've done. It is you. There's something wrong with you.
You will suffer.
And you'll be told, you know what? If you don't want this work, move. There's somebody who will quickly fill your spot.
It's not a question of, they won't even tell you, that job will go.
It's done. Can you imagine? That's
Do you remember when we were talking about food being given and I was telling you about a colleague of mine who lives in Kibra? The people who are supposed to be in charge, who are responsible for distributing food. Somebody goes and piles the food in his house and first of all gives his relatives. Not that these relatives necessarily need the food, but first of all gives relatives.
Yeah.
And then almost demand something in order for them to give you food that they've gotten for free to distribute. How bad can this thing actually get?
How bad does it need to get before something is done? How bad does it need to get that those who sit in positions of responsibility here need to say, you know what? Let's cut this thing off at its head and let's just stop it from thinking. Let's stop this thing from operating and then cut it off at its knees as well so that it cannot move any further. I believe that something can be done. I believe that the choice is being taken not to do something about it. If it was bothering you enough, if you're not void of conscience, and I'm talking about leaders at the very top, at the middle, wherever it is, those who have the responsibility, I do not believe that nothing is being done about impunity and corruption. I do not believe that this criminality that we see rife in the country, I do not believe that it is not being sorted out because somebody can't. I believe it's not being sorted out because somebody won't.
You see, we lost the power of example. Whenever leaders speak up against these things, I think, okay, I've heard you, but what is it about you that leads me to believe that, lends itself to me believing that you actually believe what you're saying, or are you just saying it because it's something that needs to be said because
It
you're
sounds
in a
nice.
Yes, exactly. And what is it in your life that you've done that would show me that the words you speak are backed by the actions that you have followed? What is it that you've done that have shown that you've stood against this particular monster? What is it beyond speaking? Because there is also the speech, and this has come up often now. People who are in the opposition, are you willing to speak against something that is wrong even when you are not in a position of the opposition? And say, look, folks, I mean, we're supposed to be here, but this is actually not right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Take it
Are
as
you
you
willing,
will.
are you willing to take action? Let's take a break on KTN Home at 8 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues. Senator James Orengo says, I think we are gangsters. We are a nation, not just of thieves. This is a bandit economy. These are the words of Senate Minority Leader James Orengo speaking in the Senate the day before yesterday, and this is what he was saying. And it's just basically looking at everything. Do you think this is an unfair accusation of the government, of the citizens as well? Because I believe even the citizens have some questions to answer here. The conversation continues. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, Instagram.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Let's remind you about this particular web portal where you are allowed to, where you can go register your children, and then they will benefit from this lovely exercise during this particular holiday season. The Kenya National Challenge, generationnextchallenge.com. Go in there, register your child, register them from whatever age, through kindergarten through 11th grade. They'll be able to participate in deeper understanding of math, computer science, robotics. And in all those, then they're able to get some certificates and some scholarships into bigger international challenges where they meet and team up with others from around the world. Very interesting challenges. You can do that. That is generationnextchallenge.com. So as you're talking about the bandit economy, guys, who is it that should cast the first stone? Because, look, you could hear Senator Orengo speaking and other senators sitting there and they're cheering him on and saying, yes, yes, yes. Can anyone at any position of leadership really stand up to scrutiny?
I would ask the question and add this: who in leadership can stand up and say that, let me cast the first stone? Because, this just isn't at the national level where it's amorphous and you can talk vaguely about corruption at the national level or at corruption at the county level. All right, okay. What on earth is your track record in fighting corruption beyond talking about it?
Yeah.
What is it that you've done in the capacities that you've had to ensure that if you were perhaps in a position of leadership, what is it that you've put in place to ensure that the help and that was due to the people you represent actually got to them? I think when you talk about that track record and then you talk about corruption, your voice, in my opinion, becomes crystal clear. But so long as it isn't, and there isn't something to back up what you're saying, then I think silence might actually be a better thing for you to actually employ. Because all you are doing is now solidifying yet another culture that we talk at problems, we talk about problems, and our solutions is to talk about it or to talk at it or to keep looking for someone else to vilify. And yet there are no examples in your personal life to actually show that this is what I have done to stand against this particular monster.
Is it not possible, for example, for the Senate to say we are going to work with the Auditor General to audit all the funds that have been used under the pretense or excuse of fighting COVID-19 across the counties? it's within the purview of the Senate to actually look at reports and question and summon. And yes, so you're saying, yes, you summon people and they ask you, why are you summoning me? But you have the power. You have the constitutional power and mandate to summon. And that also gives you powers to call out somebody who does not obey summonses by Parliament.
There are arms of government that can help you bring that person to.
Yes.
We have seen governors being brought to book, meaning they transport you, they come collect you, transport you, and bring you. It can be done, but it hasn't been done because no one is willing to do it.
Nobody's willing to do it. It's about the willingness. It doesn't exist. But you will find that, look, haven't you seen the beautiful processes that take place when there's actually a willingness to do something about a particular problem? If this person happens to be on the wrong side of favor, for example, isn't it interesting the speed and alacrity with which these processes play out? So it can be done. These things can actually happen very fast. So what about when it comes to then protecting the livelihoods and the development of the people of the country, which is what you were put there to do in the first place?
You know, the World Bank, or is it IMF, what they are doing is telling us something that we have known. The issue isn't the issue of borrowing is never really the problem. It has always been what you do with the money.
Yes.
And look at the noise that's going to come from us when IMF is saying, folks, you're going to have to be accountable. You are not going to do with this money as you, whatever it is that you see fit. You are going to follow this particular order. And it also lends me to thinking that this is perhaps why we did not bother borrowing this money. Because it's cheaper. And the question is, why are we not? Because we knew. You will be told, my friend, you are going to account for each and every cent that you borrow, and we want you. You said this is what you want to do. This is exactly what you're going to do.
Too many questions, and they just ask, and we just want to dig up a dam, and they want to ask so many questions about why do you need the dam in the first place?
Yes, and why is it that money has been spent for a dam that doesn't exist? Why are they asking us these questions?
Why are they asking us these questions? Just leave us alone. We know what we're doing. Yes. We're the ones on the ground.
In the olden days, those days when you look at, how bandits were treated or gangsters. What happened when a known bandit or a known gangster then was eventually found?
The least that happened was they hanged you.
That's the least. Drawn and quartered in the public square. Shot in public.
Yes.
That's what happened. No questions asked.
Essentially,
why did you do this?
It had been determined that these individuals are not really fit to live among us. Just like you remove diseases by ensuring that whatever is causing it is dead, you are looked at as a disease that should be gotten rid of. And the appropriate action was taken so that you did not infect anybody else.
So that's what you're recommending?
I'm saying what happens to gangsters.
That's the prescription you're giving.
I'm asking what happens to gangsters.
So if we know that we are gangsters, then let's do what we do with gangsters.
We exterminate vermin.
Bas.
Yes.
Good morning. Conversation continues. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
Okay, Outer Ring Road between Allsops and the roundabouts is another nightmare, guys, this morning. It's packed and moving slowly. Very, very slowly as you try to get in and outbound actually from the city. Mombasa Road, also one that we looked at. The eastern and southern bypasses, however, are working pretty well this morning. Northern as well as Red Hill coming out of Westlands. Not too much of an issue. Coming off Thika Road today again, Star Roads has continually behaved very well. So let's see how that opens up in the next half hour or so. It looks pretty good, guys. Not much of an issue except for where we already see that there's jam-packed traffic. All right, let's keep going through it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch with us. Let's see what it pans out to be. And we'll look again in about half an hour and see how that has opened up.
This This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation
It's
Room.
2 minutes after 8. The conversation continues. City, today's proverb.
Indeed. A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea.
The flea can trouble a lion
Yes.
more than a lion can trouble a flea.
Yes.
Okay. It's a good one. It's a good one. When you talk about the way we've been talking about, a bandit economy, we've been like this for very many years. Corruption has just become one of those things that we talk about. It's like talking about the moon and the stars.
It's there. It's there.
Those who perpetrated know this, by the way. Yeah?
They know. All you'll do is talk. Yes, there'll be a strong statement here. There'll be some words inserted in the president's speech at a national day. There will be action that will be taken. There'll be some Kamata Friday. There'll be reshuffles here and there. There'll be establishment of an anti-corruption court. There'll be a judge that will be posted there. It'll appear to be very tough. There'll be talk in parliament.
What they did not foresee is COVID. Because the suffering that they consider normal stopped being normal. A new, improved, robust suffering has been introduced. And this is not going to be talked at or just wished away. It won't happen. And if they think it is, then they have a surprise coming up for them. Look, you can't have the situation that we have and just continues. And it doesn't happen. Something is going to give. And they don't seem to see or understand this. This situation cannot continue the way it is. It cannot. It cannot.
I don't even know, because for me, it's very clear. If things were happening on a personal level in your home and you see things going to rot, do you sit and say, well, I wish I could do something about it, but I really can't. The forces against me are working quite heavily. I'm not able to. Would you allow things to go in that direction?
I've been overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah, I've been overwhelmed by it, and I really want to, but then those who should work with me are actually not contributing to this, and so there's really nothing we can do. I think not.
The warning signs keep shouting, and we keep seeing them. We keep reading about them. There is nothing good that is happening. Something drastic has to... It can't be that you keep doing what you're doing. Something drastic has to take place. Some drastic changes have to be brought into being. Because this situation requires nothing less.
Who should bail the cat?
The president. It's not actually difficult.
And when you say drastic and you want the president to take action, what do you want?
Drastic.
What is it that the president could do?
Drastic is Nairobi Metropolitan Services. That's drastic. It means it can be done. Meaning something that is unusual and yet brings the results that you require. That's drastic. Okay? Drastic is ensuring that you provide the means for those who need to be brought to book are brought to book. That's drastic, not discussions about it. Drastic means you know what needs to be done and what actions need to be taken. You take it. Drastic means that the powers that are given to the agencies that we have in this country that are supposed to bring about these changes, someone is in a position of authority and they're not doing their job, remove them by all means.
Why are we even asking the question? Why are we still dilly-dallying with what can we actually do? What are you doing? In the private sector today, you don't do your job, you are asked to leave. There are certain things that you should do. And then there's also something called summary dismissal. You find yourself doing things untoward. It's not a question of, okay, let's have a chat about it tomorrow.
No,
today, you're gone today. And you'll find that there's some institutions who will actually take some action against you for that.
Okay, Eric,
in all those things, there's due procedure, though. And that's why you'll go before Justice Dumanderi of the Employment and Labor Relations Court, and the employer will face the music.
It is true.
You dismiss this person. Did you give them
No,
a
no, no.
hearing? Did you give them
No.
ample notice? Did you give them the actual reasons? Did you give them an opportunity to respond? All those things. Now, if you work with that backwards and say government system, government, the structure of government, okay? Due process.
Eric, I understand due
So
process.
yes, there's corruption that you're pointing out here, that something could have happened at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, okay?
Something could have. It actually did happen.
Something could have happened.
All right.
Because you have nothing tangible yet to show you that this is what happened, how.
What?
Okay? No, I'm just saying. So you commence investigations. And investigations have to be conducted by an entity that is authorized by law to conduct investigations. You can't just go and say, City, you're my good guy, and I know that you can go and dig up this thing, go and do this investigation. There's nothing. The City's report is null and void. It has to be conducted by an agency that is recognized by law with the capacity to conduct investigations. If the corrupt people are maneuvering that system, what do you do? You as president, what do you do? Can you now, as president, summon the chair of the Public Investments Committee?
Yes.
Or Public Accounts and say, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Come here with your speaker.
Yes.
Then they'll tell you know what? You can't ask.
Actually,
We are an independent arm of government.
Actually, there's
Can you summon the DCI? Mr.
Yes,
DCI, what
yes,
is
you
it?
can.
Tell you, Mr. President, I'm
Yes,
doing the best I
yes,
can.
you can.
I'm doing the best I can.
Yes,
Mr.
you
President.
can. Eric, actually, you ask,
How?
can you? You can. The question that I would ask is not, why aren't you doing this? What is it that you need in order to do this thing by this time? What can be done? You're talking about what can be done. My goodness gracious me. So much can be done. So much can be done. That which can be done, we built a bridge for people to walk on, a pathway across the Indian Ocean. We talked about it was built. We saw it being built. The negotiations for building, one of those bridges that sort of like open when ships come and so forth. It can be done. And it can be done. It can be done. The president in this country may be hampered by our legislation, but they are not shackled by it. And it should be so that the president just can't do what they want. It should be so.
Yes.
But can they summon? Yes. Can they talk and ensure things get done? Man, they most certainly can.
They can. And that's why, by the way, I want to look and take the other side on this particular conversation. So as president, you even call the director of public prosecutions who is in office, and this is an office that's recognized by the Constitution. You have a negotiation, because that's the best you can do, have a negotiation with the person who's holding this particular office and tell them, your tenure has not ended, but can we have a negotiation where we have somebody else here so that we can improve and increase public confidence in this office? Yes. Keriako Robiko leaves, you bring in somebody else. Okay? Take an action. Go on seeing what can I do within the law. You actually take action. Take action with the DCI, who also is in office, and that office is recognized by law and has a certain length of tenure. Have a negotiation with the person who's holding that office of DCI. You leave. I'm going to give you something else to do. Let's bring in somebody else. Boost the confidence of the people and say, now, what resources do you guys need? Call the Treasury Cabinet Secretary. Call the Minister in charge of Justice and the one who's handling those matters. Support them as much as they can. They start work. At some point, this devil that you're fighting infiltrates not maybe the person, but the office, and starts frustrating. You have brought in a new EACC boss. You have brought in a new DPP. You have brought in a new DCI. You have had a conversation with the judiciary. Let's see, what can we do to boost your capacity? All those things you do, wheels don't move. What more?
Wheels don't move because, one, you may have brought all these things in, but to actually get things moving, Like with the judiciary, you need to give them enough money to do what they need to do.
Have they complained that what they have is not enough?
All the time. All the time.
The DPP does not complain. We're talking about the investigative authorities.
I have mentioned, you cannot talk about this process and not bring in the judiciary.
That's
because
true.
At the end of the day, the judiciary will have that final say as to how this thing moves around.
And I think this is where now we start nitpicking and losing the point.
No.
Because we'll go to the very end and say, but you see what he has been doing with the judiciary.
Actually, no.
So far, is it the judiciary that's the bottleneck in the investigations into KEMSA?
The judiciary is not the bottleneck, Eric. I am saying that the efforts that are made, you don't make it and then you stop there. It is a continuous effort until what was required to be achieved is achieved. So you start, good point, you continue. The point is, it doesn't stop.
That's true.
All these things that we're saying that are happening, they're like a live organism that you are not going to extinguish just because you've said so and you've appointed so and so. They are going to continue seeking to do what they do. For you to overcome them, you also must ensure that whatever you are doing continues being done. There's no day you stop. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes I get the impression that there's a break. People say, let's take a breather. This animal doesn't take a breather. It continues.
It doesn't. But, I actually don't think that the president sometimes takes a breather. The president, as far as is concerned, so what is happening? There are issues at the Kenya Ports Authority. He even goes there and says, investigators are coming. Please do not reach out to me. The people who are doing their work are doing their job. Okay? Unless they come up with frustration, unless you go to court. So what do we see at KPA? Investigation, this and the other. Oh, court, this and the other. It's taking the longest time for this wheel to move. Can the president force this wheel to move further? Maybe. And then you'll have now the other people who come in with civil liberties, with rights. Look at the president of the Philippines, Philip Duterte. He came in and said, our biggest challenge here is not corruption for them, it's drugs.
Yes.
What did he do? Start shooting people left, right, and center. Everybody plus their mother in the world, even a country that is fighting drugs with a drug enforcement authority like America, their president stands up and says, no, what these guys are doing is just against human rights.
So
you start something, you're doing for the best, to the best of your ability, and then you'll still face all these challenges and questions.
The reality is there will be pushback. That's just a reality. It isn't as though you start on this journey, people are going to wave at you and line up and clap and sing for you. No, that won't happen. Being the president isn't a popularity contest. The popularity is when you're voted in. In doing the job, oh my goodness. In fact, what I think is the norm is stepping on toes. Because you appoint people and they believe you've given them a carte blanche. You've given them a blank slate on which they can just do what they like. You call them to book. They will complain and pitch and pay and they will not take it lying down. All I'm saying is that, and this is theoretical, of course, it isn't an easy job, but unfortunately, it has to end up with that individual we refer to as the president. Unfortunately, there is nobody else to refer to. There is no one else. Who else am I supposed to refer to? And when you look at things that, when they are willing, they have done, how on earth did we get to the BBI? Willingness. How did we get there? Willingness. We're saying it is difficult. When they have decided that the individuals within even independent units like county governments, they have been gotten rid of, gone, dusted, finished, kabisa, kwisha, different story, talking.
And we move on.
We've moved on. When I say it can be done, I am saying this because there's ample example. In situations that you thought nothing could move, we've seen things moving. So I'm saying again, it can be done.
Look at that though, right? Has it been done and the actual effect been realized? So yes, let's talk about even impeachment of governors. So there's a governor in office and there's governor, and then the governor belongs to the president's party, and the president says, let the process take its course. All right? Members of a county assembly of Kiambu County, which is majority Jubilee, vote to impeach the governor. Members of the Senate, which again is majority Jubilee and its affiliates, vote to confirm the impeachment of the Kiambu governor. Okay, he's not in office. Have we fought the dragon of corruption? Because the accusation was about corruption and all.
Yes.
It's about talk and talk and talk and
No.
talk. Have we fought
if
the
it was
dragon of
only
corruption
talk,
if it
the
was about
governor
the
would
same?
still be governor. The governor is still not governor. The point I'm trying to make is that if there's a willingness for something to get done, I'm simply saying this, it will get done. There's nothing complicated. It will get done. It will get done. And unfortunately, there's no one higher than the president. So when everything I say, I'm going to end up right there, the president. I can't go any higher. And if there's a place that is higher, tell me. The only one is to pray.
There's a place that's higher.
Yes,
God.
The
God.
citizen. No, the citizens.
Let me tell you why I'm talking
And this
about
is what I'm
God
saying
and the
that
president. The citizens, my friend, need help. And that is why I'm going to the president. Right now, when you're downtrodden and trampled on the way citizens are trampled on, man, you are struggling to have energy to live on a daily basis. That extra energy that you require to do something else, my friend, no.
There is that. Let me now tell you why I'm thinking the citizen has a very big role to play. All right? When the president shows you that I'm taking this action and these steps, what support, public support, do we give the president? That's public support. People, yes, initially when we had a new DPP and a new DCI and a new boss of the EACC, there was all this public support. And that gives them the confidence even to come up with the Kamata Fridays and all those things. Public support and confidence. When these major political players are taken to court, and courts actually even pronounce themselves and they confirm charges against these people, or even getting to a point where as somebody is convicted, what do we see the citizens do? Divided. Yeah, like, okay, yeah, this one and the other. That person comes and you still give them space to speak to you. If we were as ticked off as we claim to be about corruption, about fighting corruption, about looking at a county government that says it has set aside X number of billions of shillings to put up an oxygen plant, but that oxygen plant is not operational, but the people of that county are just sitting back there and saying, you know, Rais anafaa afanye kazi. Yeah, Rais anafaa afanye kazi, but what can you do?
What can people do? What can people do in this particular case now? Let's just take that as an example. There's no oxygen tank. There's no this. What can the people actually do in that particular position? What do they do? There's somebody who sits in a there's somebody who sits in a position of responsibility and is supposed to have done this 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
What can the citizens actually do?
The things you keep talking about. Why is it that these people are sitting pretty in office knowing that they haven't done what they're supposed to do? It's because they feel that there's nothing that can happen to them. Nothing. Who is everybody ultimately answerable to? The citizen. Now, can you imagine if the citizens actually now took up and said, you know what, we want an oxygen facility here. Don't talk to us, you are governor. Don't talk. Don't send a CEO. Don't send a CEC. Don't send anyone to us. What we want is an oxygen plant that's functioning. What do you think that governor will do? Make it work. Make it work.
You know, let me
talk to the EACC in the region and say, EACC guys, we want to see a report being taken to the DPP.
Eric, let me go outside the boundaries.
We got into a point where we need to get there.
Let me go outside the boundaries of Kenya and talk about the late president of Tanzania.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Those who loved him, loved him. Those who hated him, hated him. And when he's referred to as a controversial president, there are those who will give credence and give explanations as to why he's referred to as controversial. But the outpouring of emotions that I saw with the death of this president, even if you wanted to choreograph it, you couldn't choreograph it. People actually felt that somebody who had their back, somebody who they felt was looking after their interest, had died. The loss, the genuine feeling of loss, it was pulsating. You could actually feel it.
Yeah.
And then let's look at the things he did and the track record. In that time that man was president, there are many things you could say he did that perhaps didn't meet the master, and chief of which was what we call human rights. But you're talking about development record. My goodness gracious me. Things that hadn't been seen for the longest time. Why? He had a style that many people looked at and said, you know, this style of this guy is a bit off. I mean, come on, you're firing somebody. You've gone meet the people too, and somebody's job, maybe the person was sick, whatever. However, it was known that when this particular hurricane visited your region, my friend, if there are things you are supposed to do and you didn't do, you would be in trouble.
Yeah.
Remember when we had a similar case when our Minister for Education went to a part of the country and the director in charge of education wasn't there. And he said, like even you, surely, goodness, you. Would I be wrong if I called you something unpalatable? Okay?
And what did we hear from the public? Oh, you should not be insulting Amze like this. There you go.
That tells you how far gone we are.
Which is why I'm saying, citizens at some point, we also need to take some responsibility.
Yes.
There. I mean, that's what I was saying. Magoha, I supported Magoha.
You did.
You are saying that I'm asking a question, you're telling me that there's a report that's being worked on.
What report?
So you just answer the question now and then you give it back in a report. Surely. What are those things that you're telling me? 22 minutes after 8. Let's also take your calls on this particular matter. 0719-012-600. Senator James Orengo reiterates what former CJ Willie Mutunga said, we are a bandit economy. Is this an unfair accusation by a senator? Is this an unfair accusation of our government, of our public service, of our society? Good morning. Let's take a break. KTN Home, SpiceFM, and online. We'll be back shortly.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a mealie. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
Johnny. Johnny. Johnny, hata unisikizi. Ni nini umesoma kwa simu hivyo?
Ni gazeti ya leo napitia.
Aje sasa. Si expert.
Ni 5 bob too.
Keep up with the latest trends and news in health, real estate, finance, business, and entertainment from the convenience of your mobile phone. Dial star 550 star 3 hash to access pull-out sections of the standard e-paper for only 5 shillings from your telecom line with no additional charges to enable you to stay up to date, informed, and entertained.
The weather with...
All right, mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 18. Highs of 25 is what we're looking at today. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 17. Highs of 24, lows of 14. 14 will be the low in Nakuru, going to highs of 28 today and sunny through and through. It's mostly cloudy in Eldoret at 16. Highs of 26 and lows of 13. Highs will be recorded at 28 in Kisumu, mostly sunny today at 21 right now. 22 and mostly sunny in Kakamega at 29. That'll be the high coming down to lows of 17. 26 will be the low in Mombasa. Light rain at 28. It's also raining in Malindi at 29. Highs of 31 and lows of 27. Partly sunny conditions in Kampala at 22. Highs of 28 and lows of 19. It's partly sunny in Dar es Salaam at 25. Highs of 30 and lows of 24. 26 will be the high in Johannesburg. 18 degrees and sunny right now. Mostly clear conditions at 27 in Lagos. Going to a warm high of 34. And 34 will be the high recorded in Kinshasa. It's 23 now and sunny.
Spice up your life.
Right, so we still see some high traffic on Mombasa Road, in and outbound. Waiyaki way from Mountain View towards Kangemi, actually slowing down a little bit. But then you get past that James Gishuru junction and you should be fine. Okay, not too much of an issue there. Getting into the city then from industrial area, Jogo Road, Outer Ring, we see some traffic, but the hotspot where it's red is Mombasa Road. Okay, coming off of Thika Road also looks pretty good. Langata Road and Gong Road into the city, doing very well. Let's talk if it gets worse. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice FM, Nyeri. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
26 minutes after 8, the conversation continues right here on Spice FM. You have CT Muga, Nduwoko, Eric Latif. We are a bandit economy. In fact, this is what Senator James Orengo basically said. He said, I think we are gangsters. We're a nation not just of thieves. This is a bandit economy. Senate Minority Leader James Orengo speaking on the floor of the Senate. Former Chief Justice William Mutunga said the same thing a couple of years back in 2016. We have interviewed the Provost of the All Saints Cathedral, Canon Sami Wenaina. He said the same things. We are a nation of thieves. Martha Karua has said the same thing. The President has said this many times. Corruption is our greatest scourge. Okay. James in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well. Good morning to Ndu, City.
Good morning, James.
Yeah, maybe first just to help Ndu on the traffic issue. Bunyala Road is a parking lot, so just need lots of patience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, town bound or both sides?
Town bound. Town bound.
Okay.
Now, on to the question at hand. I'll be very brief. Yes, we can call it ourselves bandit economies. One, it's a bit unfortunate that a senior member of the bar and a senior member of the legislature would say that yet he is in the biggest position to create change.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said one thing. The way we go trying to eradicate corruption, which I don't think is eradicatable, we only reduce the incidence of corruption, is wrong because we only go against the public sector actor, the civil servant. But civil servants never bribe themselves. There is a private sector component that is the biggest beneficiary and the initiator of the bribery. How come you never see them standing in the dock side to side by this hapless civil servant who decided to tip his hand in the cookie jar? That's number one. So I think we need to tackle it more holistically, look at it from the source. It is the private sector businessman who's got the most to get out of it, who will do whatever to do it because, again, like you said, our society has changed from where in the days of my grandfather, he used to tell us, people knew what you were doing. So today, if you appear with a word of cash, and they don't know where it came from, you will not be able to sit with them around a table. You are ostracized.
Yep.
For us, it is the opposite. We elect them into power. Not a problem, happens all over the world. But we also need to change tact in how we tackle corruption. You see, by due process is good. You have to be taken through the investigation, through courts and all that. But that's where the problem is. The prosecution has to prove that you are corrupt.
Yep.
Now, unless you get a person who was involved in that, a member of that cabal, a person who was involved in that scheme, you will never know the integrities of how it was done. That is why you find people walk out scot-free. Why don't we change tact? The UK did it. It is for you to prove that you're not corrupt. We say, Eric, we knew last year you had one small house in XYZ place. Now all of a sudden you have got 6 mansions in a more leafy suburb of the town.
Yep.
You moved from a Toyota. You are now on the higher end of SUVs, some that have never been seen in this country. What gold mine did you strike? Can you tell us how you got your wealth?
Actually,
and
James, we have already gone in that route with the unexplained wealth. Remember now, somebody is taken to court. First of all, you are charged with the unexplained wealth, and the onus is on you to actually explain how you acquired this wealth. Your known sources of income are this, and the other, and yet your assets this much. And that's why you're seeing now courts basically ruling and saying, so and so you need to forfeit X amount of your wealth or your properties back to the state because you can't explain how you got it. So I think we have already started taking that direction.
We have already started taking that direction, but it needs to be ramped up, right? It needs to, because it is again for the state to come and say this, and then you start proving. What do clever lawyers do? They ensure that that case never takes off. You go round and round and round and round and round and round and circles until the next big one comes. Someone, then you're forgotten. For me, it's a very simple thing, and to me, it can also be administrative.
Yeah.
Eric, explain to us how you have got 4 Range Rovers, yet your salary is 10,000 shillings. One was given by my brother, the other one was given by my mother. Okay, can you prove that? So these two you can't prove. Forfeit, and we move on. The problem is this thing of having to go through this very rigorous process. And I like that you brought up what Duarte did in Philippines. He was like, you know what, you guys, forget it. I have a problem. I'm going to deal with it like that. He went, he was told, they talked about him all over the world. They put blacklist, and he says, I have a problem that I'm dealing with. And I can guarantee you, the Chinese way is also more radical. But I think it needs to happen, because if we have a public shooting in Uhuru Park, tomorrow there will be no people will stop and think twice
before you participate.
Before it participates. So
That's
let's
it.
shift task. Bring in the private sector to explain. Hit them hard that you've been caught with corruption. What they do, the Unexplained Wealth, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in the US. You're closed for good. Forget. Go look for another business to do. This one you're not doing, and whatever money you made, forget about
It's all
it.
forfeited.
That's number one. And number two, secondly, is just to tell everyone, explain yourself. Because for me to try and explain how Eric got his 6 Range Rovers, it is going to be impossible unless I know someone who knows the story. Now, 3/4 of the time, once that witness starts day 1, day 2, now you find a person who you can go and corrupt. He gets corrupted, case ends. Lastly, these whole MPs with these select committees and parading people in before them and all that, MPs are not investigated. It's just a waste of time. To me, it is also part of the sanitization booth, like the ones we had during the first wave of corona. They come, they explain. Again, you see exactly. You see who you are supposed to talk to. After that, a report is given. What happens to the report? Down the train. What happens to the people who sat in the committee? Allowances, padding their pockets. So let MPs do what they're supposed to do. Sit down, legislate laws that will help the executive, that will help
the law enforcement agencies to do that. Thank you very much, James.
To do that.
Asante sana. Have a lovely day, and
Thank
we wish
you.
you all the best in traffic.
Patience is required.
Indeed. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you today?
I'm very fine, sir.
Okay.
Now, the statement by the Senator, James Orengo, who is a minority, somebody who respects very much, to me, it's outrageous, colors, and obnoxious.
Outrageous, colors, and obnoxious.
And obnoxious.
Right.
Yes. Given that this is a lawmaker, he's in Senate. First of all, what is the work of the Senate is to do what we call the checks and balances. What had been happening since then. I remember there was a thing which was recorded by the Meru governor, Kiraitu Murubi, which says if the president is ceremonial and the central stage is very weak and the periphery are very strong, I think we are playing with fire. This is what it is. First of all, the Senate himself is a lawyer, a very big lawyer that we respect very much. You remember there were some few cases that was brought in the sitting of the Senate. And you know what happened? There was 9 committee member which did what they did. Now, when you start in the floor of the House and do some acrimonious thing and say we are in a gangster economy, I think this person needed to explain later. In fact, he was in the Senate. I could have tell the guy to explain, to give us substantial explanation on how do we get into that state of gangster economy.
Yeah, where was he as this was happening?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Karanja. Thank you. Let's hear from others as well.
Have a lovely day.
You too, Karanja. Joseph in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, too. How are you guys?
We're fine, thank you.
Before Karanja, there was a caller I want to second.
James.
Yes. But now, as that takes place, we need another eye eyeing the judiciary, everyone in the judiciary, the judges and the lawyers. Because if you can't have the regular overs, and if you want to have the regular overs, then you have to give some to those. So if we're gonna do what that caller said, then we also need someone to keep an eye on the judiciary.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joseph. Amani, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Good morning,
Good morning, CT.
Good morning, Amani.
My take is this. In 2017, or between 2017 and 2019, the narrative was that GOK is actually a criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
And I remember this being said by Simuyu, the MP. He was he was being interviewed on TV, I think it was Nation, and that's exactly how he dubbed the GOK. So this is not new, yeah. And the people who are saying these things, they themselves have been accused, that's members of parliament in general, of being part of that criminal enterprise. Because a lot of bartering is done in terms of passing laws using money. This has been documented again and again.
Yep.
However, they do not enforce law. They make laws. So the laws are actually on the book, so we cannot blame them for not making the laws. But we have the enforcers of the laws, which is the judiciary, the police, etc. And that is where the problem falls down. And again, somebody called saying that private enterprise also is part of the problem. And that is also true, because we don't have the rule of law in Kenya. Everything goes because
Amani,
we can.
On the other job, the other role of Parliament is oversight. Now, with a Parliament that also appropriates money to the various organs of government, don't you think that they have a role there to oversight and say, okay, so you have come to us as the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and you're asking for this amount of money for your next programs. What have you done or what are you doing? Show us the programs that you are rolling out to fight corruption.
Yes, they can certainly do that. I don't have an issue with that. But they're not the enforcers. I mean, even if they do all these reports, how many reports have been written in Parliament about all sorts of wrongdoings in this country? And this is not recent. This is from probably independence.
Yep.
Many committees have come up and said, this is what we have found, these are the issues, this is what we need to do, and it dies there. Because they don't enforce. They may recommend, they may suggest, but that's it. It has to be taken from there to the next level.
It has to, absolutely.
Yeah, and they are not responsible for that. Once they give it, let's say, to the watchdogs and say, okay, fine, here are our findings, do something about it. And it dies there. Because even the watchdogs don't have the wherewithal to actually punish the people who are responsible for those things. They still have to go through, gerrymandering all over the place, and it just disappears after a while into nothingness. And then we start again.
Well, we go back. It's a cycle. Thank you, Amani. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, guys, bye.
Barry in Nairobi, good morning.
Eric, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm surprised. Why are you surprised that you're this way?
You're surprised that I'm surprised that we are this way?
Yes, I'm surprised actually, because see, we've been like this for the longest time. In all reasons, actually, I compare our situation to situation of one of our neighboring countries. Maybe allow me to give an example. In early 90s, the government of Siad Barre in Somalia was overthrown. So, by and by, that society aligned on socio-economic and other facets of the society. They aligned themselves to lawlessness, to chaos, to anarchy, and unruliness. Now, if all the facets of our society has been aligned to deal on how to handle a given situation or how to function in a given setup, it's no wonder now if anybody tries to bring peace in Somalia, is seen by enemies by the same people, because you're coming to be a disruption. So in this country, in fact, when I heard Orengo's statement, I flashed back to sometimes back when Kiraitu Burungi was answering a question in Parliament. He was asked why Nyeri and Siaya had a higher allocation of water in the budget compared to Kitui and Mwingi. Then he made a very funny statement, but it passed. He said something like, the wealth in this country follows the presidency. So you see, when you see that's the attitude of leaders, and then the society has also been so whereas Somali is dealing with anarchy, Kenya, every facet of this society has been tailored to be corrupt. Eric, today, if you go to a funeral, let me tell you, if you don't know somebody, you cannot eat. Nobody will give you food. Yes, nobody will give you food if you don't know anybody. It is that serious. So in all essence, you must know someone to do something, to be able to do something. Like right now, ask around. People will ask you, how do I get a vaccine? You know, the government is giving vaccines for free, but somehow you still think that you must know someone to get a vaccine.
Yeah.
So that is this society, and we'll be here for the longest time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, Barry. Maurice in Kisumu, good morning.
Morning. How's Nairobi?
Nairobi how is it?
Okay.
You know, whenever someone asks you how is that a certain place, it's about the weather.
It's the weather more like.
It's fine. It's good
So,
weather.
Today, City Muga is scoring 100 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when City Muga mentions China, this is an old man sitting back and looking at this situation from the top of
The
a hill
old
and
man
saying,
being China or the old man being CT Muga?
The reference is to my person.
For this thing,
Carry
for
on.
this thing to be
Yes.
sorted out,
I like where this is
for this
going.
thing to
Please
be
go
sorted
on.
out, we have to be radical. Because where we are headed, people are actually waiting for your child to lose the job, they're arrested because of corruption, and not that your child did something wrong. Your child did the right thing, and the right thing is not wanted.
Yeah.
Your relative to die because of oxygen, that is when you realize that, okay, this is bad. I believe the president has failed the nation together with the legislature. Corruption is a crime against humanity.
So you place it right there at the door of the president.
Yes, corruption should be punished by death and nothing else.
The president doesn't make that law, man.
No, he should insist when he was talking to them, says that if I need to, I'll give you cars. Why can't he tell the MPs that you need to kill these people, I'll give you Prado?
Exactly, Morris. Exactly.
Let us not dilly-dally about it. In China, you do that, you are shot. In fact, you're given a very quick trial. 2 weeks. Lawyer provided by the state. When the West is still saying human rights, you are dead. Where's the next one?
Morris, now you're the one who has spoken like 1,000 men.
You cannot give thieves equal rights. Because they're denying the citizens their rights.
Yep. We hear you, Maurice.
I
Thank
don't
you. Thank
yes.
you, Maurice. Asante sana. Brian in Nairobi.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I think this country, if everybody plays his part, we will go far. Because as things stand, we heap a lot of blame to Parliament, for example.
Yep.
Yes, it's true they do appropriation, but appropriation does not go beyond 15% of the estimates from the executive, number one. Number two, the executive headed by a president does not even follow the rule of law. We've seen he's supposed to appoint 41 judges. 41 passed on waiting. By law, he's mandated to appoint those judges. But the president is here saying, oh, he has some intelligence that so and so has this, that. Yet, in the JSC, the president has a representative, the Attorney General, who could have brought those things at 4 when they were vetting those judges.
Yep.
Number two, we have the Auditor General. We have the control of budget. A work of another one starts where the one ends. control of budget finish this one. Then releasing money, auditor come in. Then Bunge also has a role to bring these things to a fore because they are representative of the people. The only thing I can blame Parliament for, because these three arms of government, they're supposed to offer each other checks and balances. So people mostly concentrate on the checks and not the balances of the excesses of one arm to the other. Parliament has gone to bed with the executive. And I also blame Raya because you see some parties claiming party position on this, party position on this. So there's nothing a parliamentarian can do more. You see, if they go against the party positions, they are being disciplined for 1, 2, 3. So Parliament is the one abdicating its role of oversight by going to bed with the executive. And that's why I am against this BBI to bring back ministers to be in Parliament, where they'll be tasked with what do you call collective responsibilities. So we will have parliamentarians who cannot hold government to account because of those oaths of secrecy, collective responsibilities.
But that's what's happening now. It's not going to be a soon-to-be kind of thing. It's happening currently where we are, that they actually cannot hold anybody to account.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And what we should do as a country is to try and adhere to the rule of law. I'm against those people who say parade people at Uhuru Park, shoot them. The tenet of the rule of law also allows us to get a fair hearing, number one. And you see that fairness will make people believe in the rule of law. But you have some people who have impunity. You remember when the first lockdown, the politicians were doing everything, but a small man will be charged in a court of law for the same offense. It's like we have two sets of rules for the mighty and for the lowly. Another thing, the last thing I have to say on the matter of economy is Africa at large, we are a connected economy in this sense. Most of the rich people, in fact, the richest Kenyans, some of them used to be presidents of this country. You cannot say the same thing if those people would not have been presidents. Because they had connection to do work with the government. You find when a government is bringing up policy, for example, that story of the seat belts, we were told a ship was already at the port of Mombasa with the seat belts. So they make some policies with economic mind for themselves, not to help the country.
Not to help the country.
Yes. So we need to interrogate these people as a citizen and hold them to account.
Thank you, Brian. Points made. Audrey in Kino, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Ndu City, how are you?
Good morning,
We are very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
So I agree with City. The blame goes right to the president's door. In law, we have a saying that says, when a fish rots, it starts from the head. So the rot we are seeing in our country has started from him. There is a time Citizen TV had a feature that was showing the different state of address the president has had ever since he took power. And in every address he has, he condemns corruption, condemns, I will put it in quotes, with the different terms. I am warning, I am urging. And that was it he could do. And after that, he goes ahead and nominates someone who has an active corruption case in court for a position in the parastatal. This is the same person who claims to be fighting corruption.
Yeah, with a strong arm.
How are we supposed to believe that all this that he's saying is not just PR? I feel like everything he does is basically PR, just to show that he is working when in the real sense he's not. Let us look at I don't have the exact name for it, but there was an organization for the youth or something like that that was meant to benefit the youth. Who did he nominate to head that organization? A 99-year-old man. How is a 99-year-old man supposed to understand the problems that the youth are facing?
He has wisdom.
So, yes, Ndu.
No, it actually was Eric. But okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, this problem, it starts from him. And when you say that the people have to hold them accountable, what is happening right now is the people are down and trodden. The people are so tired that they basically do not have any energy left.
So they're sort of helpless.
Yes, they are helpless. Which is why when politicians come to them with 1,000 shillings, with 500 shillings, that is going to help them at that point. They forget about everything else because at the point where they are helpless and there is nothing else they can do.
Okay,
So if
Audrey.
he truly claims to be fighting corruption, let it start from his own office.
We hear you. Thank you very much, Audrey.
Thank you.
So this is what Senator James Orengo said. The floor of the Senate the day before yesterday, as the Senate was discussing the revenue allocation between the national county, the division of revenue between the national government and the county government. This is what he said. Basically, he was sounding completely frustrated.
There was a time in Italy, if you stole something, and I think that's how they came into control, you would just find somebody on a motorbike shooting you on the, they didn't shoot to kill, they just shoot you on the knees to disable you. In some nations, you are taken to the firing squad, but you are a country of laws. But I don't know what happens. Like when you look at the reports of the Auditor General, I think we are gangsters. We are a nation not just of thieves. This is a bandit economy. And we must describe it as such. And we cannot say that the people of Kenya are wrong. It's those who are given responsibility to look after these institutions. And no wonder when you call them, Madam Speaker, in the houses of Congress in the United States, if you are summoned to appear before House of Congress, however mighty you are, you will leave everything to appear before House of Representatives.
We are gangsters. We are a nation not of thieves. This is a bandit economy. This is what the Senate Minority Leader said. Let's take a break now and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. Thank you very much for tuning in. You've been with us since 7 o'clock. The conversation continues on SpiceFM 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret is 96.7, Nyeri is 90.9, and Malindi is 97.7. We also live streaming the show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and our handle is SpiceFMKE. You can also log on to www.spicefm.co.ke. Keep it right here. The conversation continues. CT Muga, Eric Latif, and Nduwoko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
8 minutes to 9. Many comments, very many comments on social media.
All right, Daniel Osemondjere says, my people, you've done your job with regards to the negative impact of corruption. Since the corrupt have refused to do the right thing, leave them for fate. My governor, he says, as an example, who stole coronavirus funds, caught the virus and could not get assistance. He passed on. Okay. Johanna says, gangster bandits who represent them when they are taken to court. Who represents them when they're taken to court? It's their senior counsel who represents them. And so there's an issue with that. Aren't the same lawyers not quick to defend looters? Same thing, making sure justice is never served. Kenya is more of a brokerage economy. Until we learn to work to eat, then we will never get out of this mess. Look at the US. Someone usually has more than 3 jobs. Here in Kenya, you want to sell a cow and make it in life. It's crazy. Thomas says... Thomas says the money MPs used to go for benchmarking on how to drive SUVs abroad needs to, you guys are good today. Needs to be directed to authorities tasked with checking graft so that they can learn from other countries who have successfully tamed corruption. If an institution like the National Assembly of Kenya or the Senate is unable to take action against such individuals, then what recourse do we have within the confines of the law? The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is unwilling to prosecute, and the judiciary has been bullied into submission. That's what Maurice says. Kenya is a bandit economy where the elite in government rob the citizens. However, the profoundly rooted graft can be tamed by punishing this vice, not rewarding the perpetrators, like this case. So, 100%, Kenya government is an organized criminal enterprise. My goodness. This is what Kenyans are saying.
So in all those things, as we say, okay, more action needs to be taken. All right, so let's take this to the door of the president. Okay, a member of parliament standing in parliament and sounding like he's defeated and he's given up, and yet he has the full armory behind him, force of the law. So where does that leave?
Well, he's talking as though he's some helpless citizen who doesn't have any authority, and yet he has authority.
They have the power.
He has experience. He has knowledge.
And he knows the law. In fact, Orengo, if we talk about Orengo has those laws that are there now in Parliament. Those ones that are laws in the Republic of Kenya. From the Constitution to Act of Parliament, Orengo participated in writing the Constitution. He knows he was a member of that committee, okay, of Select Committee of Parliament on Constitution Review. He was very active when the laws were being brought to operationalize the Constitution, especially now when it comes to these ones on checks and balances. He knows, Buana. He's the man who will quote for you the law and what needs to be done. So when he says, look at America and Congress and summoning a member of the Congress and coming, he should tell us, so are you saying that our law does not give you any leeway? If you summon some senior person and they don't jump coming to you, there's nothing you can do about it?
Or is it because this thing is this thing difficult to do because those who are in the positions of actually doing something about it also may have or have had their hand in the cookie jar?
But we have had fingers being pointed in that very direction that you're speaking of, where it is being said, even with the reference to issues that have to do with this enterprise we call KEMSA, that the very people who are in the house that is supposed to be investigating have been involved in some of these things. So if from among themselves they cannot bring each other to account, they cannot bring each other to book, so who do you think they're going to bring to book?
Mutula Junior Senator sat here and told us, well, you know what, you look at interests, and if there's a committee sitting that is essentially supposed to find people culpable for a particular act, and there are people sitting on that committee who have interests and either have been paid or seen, how do you expect then that they're going to call out people and put down names for possible prosecution? How would you expect it to happen? And that's what I'm saying.
Look, let's look at even KEMS and ask this question. Here we are dragging the CEO through very, very hot coals. Do you really think that person just acts independently?
Of course not.
Yes. So why do we focus on this person who essentially is a send around instead of focusing on where the instructions come from?
The beneficial owner.
That's what I'm telling
of
you.
This criminal enterprise.
This thing is not a matter of can't do. It's a matter of won't do.
Yes.
For reasons best known to the
you can drag the board of KEMSA through the hot coals if you so wish. But really, if you keep pointing fingers in the wrong direction, we know where these instructions come from.
We do.
And we also know the enterprises that are involved. So, who's fooling who here?
Spice up your life.
Okay. Is Bunyala Road now moving?
No.
Not moving yet. It's 9 o'clock.
It's moving on the spot.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Road is where we left it last time. The folks on the road, however, are the ones who are not moving. So there is quite some traffic there this morning, then trying to go into the city and out. So folks are looking for another way to get on back onto Mombasa Road after having been diverted coming in from town. All right, so that's the thing. Utawala, Tajmore, that area, it needs some hope and a prayer. Because that's jam-packed right now. Also, some parts of Jogger Road packed as well as you get to the roundabout leading to Landis Road. Industrial area, sorry. Also, it seems that this is the time now where everybody who had left is all moving in the same direction. Okay? So we have some traffic right around now. Shall we look in a short while and see how that has changed? About half hour or so. Hopefully it should get better. Sawa sawa?
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 2 minutes after 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. CT, today's proverb.
Indeed. A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea.
A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea. All right, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. Yeah. Yeah. So as the conversation continues and we're looking at, the kind of things that need to happen in the country, what is it that could be done in the country? Actually, maybe we can talk about the actions that our government can take. CT mentioned, and he has mentioned a number of times, the works of the late president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli, and what he did to protect the natural resources of his country. The president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo.
Yeah, very good.
Right? He went to Switzerland. First time a president of Ghana has been invited to Switzerland in 16 years, or was it 60 years? And when he was there, he then talked about, we are not going to be bringing raw material here to you. We are going to be dealing with it from home. Our own president, when he was directing that, we have reforms in the tea sector, he also talked about what needs to happen in the tea sector and saying a certain percentage of our tea exports must go as processed. Is this a point where the African leaders are starting to get the cojones?
Do you know, that particular voice is something that can echo right throughout the continent. But it ought to begin a little further than just the pronouncement of one president. It ought to come from a negotiation table where the association or the economic blocks we have within the continent under the AU play a very key role in the discussions about treaties and understanding that we have with other blocks or countries that are far more advanced than we are. Because when you bring about an understanding with a country as yourself, as Kenya, well, chances are the beginning power that you will have is significantly diminished. But if you if that same argument as Kenya is brought to the fore by a bigger bloc, then you have more clout, because the country that you're dealing with, or the bloc that you're dealing with, knows that it isn't just one country. They know that there is a lot more beyond the voice of this particular one country. Now, what am I saying? I'm talking about this never-ending story of raw materials leaving our continent as raw materials and then being brought to us as finished products, which, of course, has a value addition to it. I say it's a never-ending story because it is a never-ending story. And yet, when you have leaders who then take that particular position and say, look, folks, this one, we have to bring it to a halt. And this is what we must do in the interest of our country. Then problems arise. And partly because those countries have been dealing with those issues as from a Lone Ranger perspective. Now, but there are countries within this continent that have taken positions where they protect whatever natural resources their countries have. Okay, the latest example has been the late president of Tanzania. If you look at our country, you want to ask yourself, okay, take, for instance, the industry that you've spoken of, the tea industry. Look at the coffee industry. Look at the sugar industry. What is this concerted effort that you can look at historically and say, this is what the Kenyan government has done to protect these particular industries? Because if you look at the employment that these industries have provided, if you look at the income and the livelihoods that depend on this, and you'll find that he's been wanting. Because what other countries have done and what can be done is in the public domain, it's understood. But beyond talking about it, what has the country actually done to ensure that these industries are protected? These natural resources are protected. What has been done? Look at our country. We talk about natural resources. My friend, we have capacity for natural resources that are untapped. This entire continent. In Kenya, let's take, for instance, something as simple as iron ore. Okay? We have resources in Taita Taveta. We have resources in the eastern province, the part that we refer to as Cumberland. And we're not just talking about guessing. It is known, and the reserves are known. Yet you will find we still import iron ore. And you ask yourself,
why?
On the one hand, we export some, but on the other hand, we import. Why? Why have we not developed this resource that we have? Why have steps not been taken to ensure that we actually develop it? That's just one resource. So, when we're talking about the willingness and the ability, unfortunately, the two aren't in time. They don't meet. There is talk of the willingness, but there's no action that is commensurate with that talk. Yes. So, here we find ourselves in a position where we have the resources and the means to actually bring our people out of this quagmire of poverty that we speak of. And yet, beyond actual talk, the real effort that is actually made to do things that would bring about change, one doesn't see it. One doesn't see it. What you see is a lot of tokenism.
But why do you think this is so? Is it because the leaders don't see the need for that? Or is it because of what we were talking about, criminal enterprise? So those who stand to benefit by exporting this have basically taken hold of the decision makers in government and the policy makers in government, such that these policies will never see the light of day. What do you think is the cause for this?
Leadership in this country, and I mean take it as broadly as you like, in this country, have a very close relationship with the business enterprises. The business enterprises play a very key role in some of these things we keep talking about. Because in the absence of business enterprises who have the money to bribe and to push and to lobby and to do all these things, some of these things we talk about wouldn't really exist. Because the government, what does the government do? The government issues licenses for business enterprises to do what they do. Okay? Now, the role of business enterprises is diminished, and we point fingers at government officials, people in leadership, and we should. But when you have a situation where the very people in government, the very people who are at the top of governments and those who are in political settings also have businesses and are involved in businesses. So you have an unholy marriage here that unfortunately does not benefit the citizens, because these people will gang up to look into the business interests and the profits that they can get from this. And the interests of the country takes second place.
Everything else comes second.
Yes, it comes second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. In fact, in our case, it doesn't even begin with second. It begins with 9. And then you continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 taken up.
But some of these things, if you just think about them, all right. So this is a private, somebody who has serious connections in government, but they are in private sector.
Yes.
Looking at things in the short term.
Yes.
And always just saying, this thing, I want to put in as little effort as possible and maximize how much I'm getting out of this.
And make as much as possible.
Making as much as possible.
As quickly as possible.
If you just look at this, the President Uhuru Kenyatta himself, in January 2020, when he ordered the restructuring and stuff to happen in the tea sector, this is what he said. He said, in 2018, Kenya exported 476 million kilograms of tea, earning the country 140 billion shillings. All right? That is Kenya. 476 million kilograms, we got 140 billion shillings. He compared this with Sri Lanka, on the other hand, exported 288 million kilograms, which is about 60% of what we had exported, but they earned 150 billion shillings. 60% of what we had exported, but Sri Lanka earned 10 billion shillings more than what Kenya had earned.
How did that happen?
The higher earning for lesser tea, this is the president's speech, than ours is largely due to their ability to export close to 50% of their teas in value-added form, compared to us who export 98% of our tea in bulk raw form. To earn more value from our tea, we need to add value to it before exporting it. Going forward, the president said, I have directed the National Treasury, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Attorney General to finalize and gazette the newly developed Tea Regulations 2019 within the next 2 weeks. Now, those regulations were gazetted. The president even earlier this year, directed for fresh elections to be conducted at KTDA. Court says,
Hold on.
Okay? As a country, for very many years, we have been exporting tea. Our green tea is among the most valued in the world. In fact, according even to just the president's speech, our green tea constitutes about 20% of the global tea consumption. Kenya remains a leading exporter of black tea, accounting for 20% of global tea exports. But we send it as raw. For very many years, it has never come to the government to say, let us process. The conversation about processing started some time back. In 2018, the government started this move. In 2020, the president orders reforms. In 2021, we still haven't actualized it. And we are still talking about making sure that at least part of our tea shall go as processed.
What is the problem? I think we are looking at another case of there's the ability lies therein to do. The willingness is a totally different story, because every time you look at something that would seem insurmountable, this is a huge project. There's so many things that we have to get in place, so many people and processes then that we have to organize and manage in order to get something like this done. But the funny thing is, to me, is that we have private companies in this country. I think we've even sat with one of them here in this very room, who are doing the exact same thing that we're asking that the country does on a larger scale, right? We have people who are taking the raw, and they are now adding the value, and then they are selling a product beyond just the original. Right here, private companies in this country. So the question is, what stops this from happening on a grander scale? And I think that you'll find that there is either one, mismanagement, and two, unwillingness to actually go through the process. And that you will find that there are some people who benefit directly from this value add not being done. That they're in a position where they continue to benefit. So now when you remove this, when you remove the raw in the quantity that it is going out to the international market without it being, number one, refined, without value being added, there are some people who are benefiting right there in that line. And if you remove that aspect, they stop to benefit. And these are powerful folks. This is the reason why a lot of things have been given for why they cannot go out like that.
Bandit economy.
Absolutely. There are people who are benefiting, and those people have a lot of power when you look at the grand scheme of things. And they're the reasons why such things cannot happen, because it does not make sense. It does not make sense why you cannot say, let's take control of this thing. A natural resource that you have, that you can count the countries on your two hands in the world that produce this resource, and they don't have control over what happens to it. Doesn't make sense to me. We saw Ghana the other day decide, okay, one country that has been getting huge profits and benefits in terms of what happens from our cocoa, have they decided to do? We will stop exporting cocoa to you. There are certain things that then will happen. Either you come here and set up a plant here so that we can see direct benefit of this thing that happens, or guess what? We will produce this thing for ourselves. Shebi is chocolate people are looking for. We'll find ways to now produce this chocolate in country. But Ghana to Switzerland export of cocoa is not happening anymore. Because you have seen, and that's what I'm saying, you can decide to do these things. You'd rather even say, stop it. We are going to start from today. Let's figure it and fumble about in the dark until we figure it out. But something can be done. It can be done. You can't tell me if private companies here in this country can figure out what to do with tea, and they know how to do it, and they can give you a value-added product at the end of the day, there's no telling what government with more machinery, more funds can actually do. No telling. Can do, won't do.
For that to happen, and if you look at now, this whole giant machine called government works with policy comes into law comes into programs and regulations, and that's how the government will move so that it can finance some of these things. So at policy level, this is the time we're talking about coming up with policy that supports value addition. That policy that supports value addition, that is where now programs that can help incentivize the creation of value addition facilities in country will come in. So at policy level, senior people in government, highly experienced, have not thought of doing what is being done now over all those years. As Sri Lanka was going increasingly boosting its own value addition and becoming more and more competitive in the international market, in our market, our guys were just sitting back, and you want to tell me they were not thinking about this? I believe they were thinking about this.
So what prevented them from acting and doing what they needed to do?
Is because policy has to be made at a certain level. And that level has been captured.
When you have an unholy marriage between the business enterprises and the world of business in your country, your lawmakers and people in government, my friend, it is a winning formula for them. It's a daunting and a disempowering formula for the citizens, especially when you don't have a system that can bring anybody to account, meaning you just make money willy-nilly, and it doesn't really matter how you make it or how much of it you make or who suffers in the process. But more still, do you think it's accidental in this country where you find someone is in the world of commerce or business or industry for the longest time, and then at some point you wonder, this captain of industry wants to go into politics. You think it's accidental? No. It isn't accidental, because it's long been understood in this country that one of the things you do so that in the future, they do look into the future, they know questions will be asked. And the Auditor Generals in this country have done a very good job of documenting these things, by the way, and they don't go anywhere. You just need to pick it up and then continue with it. So that when those questions are asked, you are adequately protected. You are part of the political class who determine the direction that some of these things take. Okay? Now, it's unfortunate that behind all these schemes, the thought that isn't given enough space is that the very citizens that seems to be suffering are the ones responsible even for the wealth that you have. Without them, you wouldn't have what you have. I liked what Dr. James Mwangi said the other day when they were talking about the thinking behind the policies that Equity Bank has had. Man, it's so people-centric. I sat here and I marveled. And I was delighted that they get it. They get it. And when they get it, look at the reward that the bank reaps from just getting it. Understanding who their partners are and then working with their partners. Now, we have people who are elected. James Mwangi isn't elected. Not in the way that we elect our political leaders. But he gets it. People whose very jobs depend on actually people coming down and casting a vote for you, have refused to get it. It's not that they can't get it; they have refused to get it.
They're refusing.
Yes, and if they get it, they've refused to act on it.
Let's take a quick break and see how the weather is going to look like for the rest of the day. And as we do that, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, this website and portal platform developed by the Standard Group, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, several jobs listed there. So, for instance, Head of Commercial Operations at Jumia On-Demand Services. There's a job that's there. Required skills and qualifications, 5 years experience and significant experience in e-commerce, management consulting, venture capital, company creation or category management in retail would be appreciated. Proficiency in MS Office and Excel. Ability to analyze large data sets to make strategic decisions. Also, amazing analytical skills, organized and structured. If you're a fast learner, good interpersonal skills, resistant to stress, very independent with a strong ability to surpass expectations. That apply for job Head of Commercial Operations, Jumia On Demand. Just go on to jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. You'll see that among many other jobs that have been posted there. Hey, take advantage. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Okay, so we're going to see cloudy conditions in Nairobi for most parts of today. Light rain in some parts as well. Highs of 25, coming down to lows of 17. It looks like also a rainy day in Nyeri at 18. 25 will be the high and lows of 14. Sunny conditions in Nakuru at 20. Go to highs of 28 and lows of 14. 26, 13 is what it looks like in Eldoret. In the middle right now, it's mostly cloudy. 28 will be the high in Kisumu. Mostly sunny at the moment at 24. It's also 24 in Kakamega, mostly sunny. Highs of 29 and lows of 17. 31 will be the high where it continues to rain at 29 in Mombasa, 31 the high in Malindi, 30 right now, and rain in some parts. It's now raining in Kampala, steady at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam, light rain at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Looking at 26, the high in Johannesburg, it's sunny at 21. Cloudy conditions in Lagos now, a chance of rain later, highs of 34 and lows of 27. 32 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it's partly sunny at 24. Very warm in Beijing at 21, highs of 23 and lows of 28. Sunny conditions in Paris, but it's close to freezing at 2. 11 degrees the high, coming back down to lows of 2. Where it will be at 0 is London, where it's currently sunny and there's a high chance of rain later. It'll only go to highs of 10. 11 will be the high in New York today. It's 13 and cloudy right now. It'll come down to lows of 6 through today.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
9, Becky has been missing. It's good she's back. What's she saying?
She says, let's take a walk in utopia. Let's talk a walk. Oh, all right. Either way, we can talk it or take it. It's June 2021, and the president of the GOK decides to dedicate the same efforts he dedicated to BBI to the T sector, value addition, international marketing, and such things. Can you visualize the benefits that we would witness? Is her question. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
You know, I keep quoting Magufuli. The late President Magufuli, and rightfully so. But let me quote former President Mwai Kibaki. You see, when I was talking about doing something radical, Mwai Kibaki did very many radical things. And none of them had met with the claim, people shouted and saying, happy. First of all, his employment record. People said, "Lakini, this guy's resurrecting some really ancient creatures to come and work." But all those people had worked in government, and there are people who had a track record. Okay, people complained, but there they were. Then he said, "Development projects, halt. Let's take an audit of what can be done, set things in place." Things which we now take for granted were set up then. Then there was the issue of, can we realize the full benefits of the revenue that we actually have in this country and ensure that we actually harness it well?
Yeah.
And that process began. And it was a beautiful process to watch. So it isn't other countries doing it. It's been done in this country. It's been done. And we have seen it, and we saw the benefits. And the joy and the pride of us saying, we're doing these things with our own money. Okay? Yeah, we're borrowing a bit to balance it, but essentially, it's us doing it. Meaning, your money is actually working for you. A lovely feeling. A nice feeling. So when you say you're an independent country, you feel this independence is real. Then, fast forward it, we roll back that time and take us back to pre-independence. Where we are no longer that independent anymore. We are at the behest of people who have lent us money. And then you want to ask the question, how did we get there? We know how we got there. It's not that we don't know. We do know how we got there. But can we roll it back? Yes, we can roll it back. Because that path has been charted. That path has been followed. It's a path that isn't strange or new to us. What seems to have been forgotten is the willingness to actually do what is needed to be done. What seems to be the willingness to do it piecemeal, optics, so that it looks like we're doing it, but to actually do the work, and popular as it may be, but that actually gets you to where you want to go, that has been absent. And that is why that huge list of thousands of projects that the IMF listed exists. These projects have not been done. These ones have not been done. It means these ones we spoke about, said, look, some of them, forget even doing them, just stop, don't bother.
Yeah.
Why? Because projects that were started have been completed. That is an avenue through which money is spent, and yet we are exactly where we were when we started. So, did we need the World Bank to come and tell us this? No, we didn't.
No.
Did we need IMF to tell us this? No, we didn't.
So what's the issue then? Is it that we need what people would call that nationalist leader who would come in and look at, make Kenya great again?
Kenya is already great, huh?
Makega.
Kenya is already great. Kenya is already great, huh? It's this convergence of those who are in leadership and their business interests taking for. And I'm saying this across, whether it is at the county level, whether it is MPs, whether it is who, focusing on business that grows the individuals and their interests rather than looking at the interests of the country. It's killing us. It's killing us.
And that's it. It's sort of like a government has been captured by the private sector. Now, let me just put it out there. This is what I'm basically thinking. Our government has been captured by the private sector, such that every decision that's made has private sector
fingers all over it.
Fingers. Or even just looking at how to please the private sector. So coming up with the PPPs, with the PPP law, just look at how private sector can benefit. Looking at coming up with even procurement law, where the procurement law says that a government cannot go directly to the manufacturer. It has to use an intermediary to bring goods from the manufacturer to government.
Now you tell me.
Does
that thing make sense to you?
It doesn't. You cannot go to manufacturer of these cars. You have to use an intermediary to go and negotiate. That, of course, means that private sector up your margins, and the government is buying things at obscenely high amounts of money. So we are at that point. So people who are, dedicated public servants in government who look and they see, okay, so this is maybe how we can go about it. This is how we can roll out affordable housing in the country. And now, so how do we do affordable housing? So this is a program, okay, so if we start with, we have land, we have this, we have the other, we can encourage the development of this land, then the private sector will come in. The private sector then will be able to blah, 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 this and the other.
You know, Eric, what you
How
say-
do we deal with manufacturing? To boost manufacturing, yes, this is private sector that's going to do this, but then how do we as a government deal with money? We are at the same cycle. Oh, this, that, you know, the private sector will have to come in and play somewhere, whether at consultancy level, at implementation level, at some point, and it just bloats the budget, goes out of the window,
Yes.
doesn't work, and the private sector players that actually win these tenders are not necessarily private sector. They are thugs.
Government masquerading as private sector?
Yes.
You know, right across, just our neighbor, Rwanda, not too far away from here, that government has a rule. When you are private enterprise, let's say you are a foreign company wanting to work in that country, a certain percentage of your holding must be local. Okay? Law. They're not the only country that has that law. There's an understanding that we understand you want to participate, all right? Very good. But for you to participate, this is how you're going to participate. Why, in the name of free enterprise, are we abusing something that is good for an economy in that you allow people to use the best ability that they have? Why do you then allow it to be held captive by a very small percentage of the population of the country to the detriment of so many others? You know, if private enterprise was making money and you could see, yes, the economy is growing, employment is growing, who would pitch a fit? I wouldn't. But when the very thing that you're hoping wouldn't happen is what is happening.
Is what is actually happening.
Then you're asking, you're killing the goose, for heaven's sake. Can't you see it? You're killing it. How then do you expect that even the very thing that you are behind, what do you think is going to happen? It will also die.
Well, the thing is, when you go into some of these agreements, look, I think it's very... how many people who go into these positions go in with the mindset that they're actually going to develop the country? And I think that they're very few. The majority go in knowing that they're going to benefit or develop themselves.
It's like
that's the thing.
It's like every politician, everyone in government is a business person.
Yeah.
So how on
the focus is not, it's like the focus is not the country and its people. So that's, you see, how do we get here? From the very beginning. From the very beginning when it all started, the focus was not the people and the country and the development of the same. It wasn't. So how do you expect that if you targeted something and you've already shot it, you expect to go somewhere and the bullet has already left the chamber, and you expect to go and then divert the trajectory that bullet is going? Do you expect to do that? If your very focus from the beginning was something else, how do you change
Eric
it?
asked, do our people in leadership see this? They do. Now, you would wonder, when we make all these laws and our legislators, knowledgeable as they are, well-informed as they are, make these decisions, surely when you are legislating, shouldn't you then consider that perhaps part of your legislation should not act as a bulwark? Should it not put a halt to some of these things that you see happening?
But if that was not your intent, how do you expect that to actually change in the course of time?
The example he gave of us passing a law that prohibits the government from going directly to the... when I first came across it, I wondered, what sort of thinking went into this nonsense? How do you even justify this thing? The competitive advantage that the government can... You remove that advantage. So what then are you bringing in its place? And what do you think will be the outcome of this? And then you want to stand before us and then say, we are in this position because we are a thug community, we are a bandit economy, we are...
We've become a deals country. And it starts from government. Government operates that all the conversations, if you just think about the conversations that we have heard in business in the last X number of years, it's about, first of all, government pays suppliers, all right? Second thing is government now making sure that, for example, now if you're doing 10 kilometers, break it down into 3 so that you have 5 companies benefiting.
In theory, sounds good, doesn't it?
The thinking is not that we are going to make this thing, the road be completed faster or better. It's about 5 companies benefiting. That's Topmost justification.
Meaning,
it's about business.
Let everybody have their shares. You bring your company, I bring mine. Do you bring yours?
Yes. Kidogo. When you hear the conversations about SGR, there are those that have actually even gone to say, you know what, that project could have been done by 5 different companies. Why didn't you do that? It's because we are not looking at, it's not from the point of efficiency.
No.
It's from the point of
self-benefit.
And how we benefit. So let's open the phone lines 072 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. What is it that can be done to improve our own standing in the international community? We are talking about improving value addition, so we stop selling, we reduce the amount of raw material that we are selling. We talk about the same iron ore. We are importing iron ore. We're talking about coming up with a coal power plant, and we have deposits of coal in Ukambani here. All these things that we have, how can we take full advantage of our natural resources? 14 minutes. No. These are 24 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
All right, so Bunyala Road, still some problems there. Traffic is continuing very, very slowly as you're trying to get into and out of the CBD. Hopefully it will phase off without too much more trouble. All right, we're also looking at some traffic then between Jogger Road, Landis Road, that little spot there, still trying to get in, but not too bad. So officially out of traffic hours soon. Let's see how it opens up during the day. Talk to us if you need to. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Shouldn't be too terrible now moving forward. You can text as well on 40127. We know that in the evening it's going to pile up again, but for now, let's see how we can enjoy the less traffic on the roads.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right,
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
719-012-600. Ed Gitonga, good morning.
Morning to you. How you doing, guys?
We're fine, thank you.
We're fine, thank you, Ed.
Now, here's the thing, in as much as we're looking at how the government has to do it, let it not go very far, okay? Let it go to something very, very simple. The cost of power in the country currently is very high. The cost of power, the cost of fuel consumption right now is very, very high in the country, right? So producing maybe that 1 liter of juice, then maybe that 1 liter of something, it's going to take high. And that is why there was some time back we were saying eggs were coming from Uganda.
Yeah.
Another thing, it is high time right now the president, and as you were saying, Eric, the president is to blame. It is high time the president used his words for who he is, not issuing threats. Even if you're my brother, even if you're my sister, we are going to follow you. Yet there is no following up that is going to happen. City, as you had said, the president is to blame. Now, as far as Eric was saying, the citizenship. Yes, the citizenship also has the power. It has the mandate to change. Because look at this, Orengo, the guy who was saying that we are a country of bandits. He himself has been in the assembly for a very long time, right?
Yep.
The question is, what has he done? He himself.
He has legislated.
Some other people like him who have been there. What have you done? You know, before you point a finger at someone, first of all, point a finger at yourself and ask yourself, what have I done, me as a person? Before you go elsewhere. Because I can tell you this, even those MPs, even those legislators that are taking tasks, Huwezi kumletea contract ya barabara umwambie nitakupea mita kadhaa akatai because of integrity. That's one I can assure you. Right, like even in tenders right now, even tenders that happen to the counties, you have to know someone in that office to get that tender. Even if you bunch up how many files or ledgers to boost up that tender and to show how credible you are, as long as how do so and so in that office, it's not going to work.
So it's a deep-rooted corruption.
It's deep-rooted, and it has started from deep within us, the citizenship, up there. As you also guys were saying earlier, people have been in that comfort zone. As in, for example, like I am in the matatu industry, and I believe that lazima nipatiane kachwani or kaso ndo mambo yende through. Yet someone doesn't know. You know, some people, like for example, I find someone in right now, unapata you've been arrested for a worn-out tire in quotes. Why am I saying in quotes it's a worn-out tire? Because it is not worn out. But because this cop doesn't know that, okay, he knows that once ameanza kukuintimidate, you're going to do his bidding, right?
Yeah.
So people are like, let me fork out.
To just fork out the money to buy convenience.
Yeah, me as far as I'm concerned, tutapelekana. I have been. Sometimes there was a time I used to work in court. So mimi tutapelekana. There is no law. You're not going to tell me.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your contribution.
Have a good one, guys.
You too. You too. There's this comment that's been shared by Becky again.
Right. Very interesting. And it says here, the Singapore Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew said, there are two options for me. Either I get corrupted and I put my family in the Forbes list of the richest people in the world and I leave my family with nothing. Or I serve my country, my people, and let my country be in the list of the best 10 economies in the world. I choose the second option. Kenyan politicians said, there were two options for us too. But as the second option was already taken by the Singapore Prime Minister, we had no other choice.
Pidgin in Utawala, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. How are you?
Very
good. Mko salama?
Kabisa.
Yeah, sometimes you see, I enjoy the conversation. I think this country is ready for revolution. Because you see, the example of these leaders who are elected are showing to this country is actually making citizens lose hope in leadership. And they even lose hope in getting out and going vote leaders. And these are bad reputation and a bad beginning for our future generation. When people believe that even after electing a leader, there's nothing tangible that will get back as a citizen, it will make people boycott such election. And therefore, we will not have a very competitive democracy and having good leadership in this country.
So what do we need to do to actualize that revolution that you're saying?
And what form would you say this revolution should take?
Now, what is happening now is that we need to have what we call a coordinated revolution. You see, revolutions sometimes spark and become successful. But when they are not well coordinated with the alternative leadership, they become a problem. Like, for example, you see in Sudan, people just start a revolution, then another leadership get in. But those who are starting revolution do not have an organized system to take over after that revolution becomes successful. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
So you realize that when you go to an organized revolution, we'll have to take out these guys, but we'll still bring back the same guys who are in the same cohort. Like what happened in Zimbabwe. The deputy president becomes the president and everything goes on like how it was before, you see? So personally, as a young person, I decided even to start a political party. And I have even declared my interest to vie for presidency because I believe it's not a matter of age, it's a matter of will to change this country. But the problem that people like myself who are just cobblers around here, you cannot be given an opportunity so that at least you can express your view to citizens of this country so that they can get to know what you want.
It. You are waiting to be given an opportunity, aren't you?
I've started my initiative. I'm only looking for
the support.
All right. How do you look for the support? Are there people who share your ideas?
I have a network of young people countrywide.
Excellent. Do you have young people who are willing to also participate in these processes that bring about change?
They are even ready to offer themselves as an alternative leadership, not about even vying for...
No, not ready. They should offer themselves, because if they don't offer themselves, people will not know that they're even there.
They're there. They're coming out as whatever want to be MCA somewhere, whatever want to be a recruitment somewhere. They're organizing themselves. They are coming for meetings without fare, without cost. There's nobody paying them. Because you see, I cannot even afford to pay them like any big politicians around, you see?
You shouldn't be able to afford to pay them. Some of these things that bring about change have to be voluntary, my friend. If you believe in something that seriously, they actually should be helping find ways of funding that particular party and making sure that that party is a strong organ, not the other way around, not you having to pay people. If you're paying them, then they then become employees.
No, that's what they have done for the last 2 years. They have paid every single coin for this part to be where it is, including paying for the registration fee, the certificate fee. They have done that. But you see, that shows how ready they are. The only thing that is remaining is media play a big role in this country. Media plays a big role to get the information, reach the villages and everybody in wherever they are. Because people are looking for alternative leadership. People are tired of the current leadership. And I'm telling you, as the situation goes, you see, the leadership of this country know what's supposed to be done, but they don't have the will to do it. That's the problem.
That's true. That's true.
So,
Alternative leadership is needed. And then you need to convince the people in your own locality, in your own neighborhood. So, for example, if someone is going for a position of member of the county assembly in the ward, do they get a critical mass who support them?
Yeah, but you see, like in my party, it's organized that we need to have what we call a leadership academy. That these people go through a certain school of thought in leadership, so that they graduate as leaders first with the same school of thought, and then you can subject them back to the citizens. Because you see, if you don't take them through the same school of thought and leadership training, they'll be just like the same leaders out here, you see. So we are opening up to something like a leadership school of thought or a leadership academy within the party that can train these people from the same concept of leadership, and so that we can hold each other accountable. As the party is accountability and transparency, we need to account on whatever we are doing and hold each other accountable for whatever we are doing. So this is what we are trying to develop as an alternative leadership.
Point well made, but look at the community you come from. Who would you say understands that community better than you or the people who live in there? No one. Who would say that, who understands the needs of that community better than the people who live in there? No one, it's you. Now, if you're talking about solutions, then does it not follow that if we're talking of possible solutions, you are the very people who can provide those solutions?
That's why we start with the leadership, the alternative leadership, to provide those solutions, not advocating or championing for other people who are outside our community. You see, there are people who are beyond these basic needs we are looking for today, and therefore they cannot even configure or they cannot even try to implement these basic needs we are fighting for today. They are fighting for expressway, we are still fighting for some feeder roads in the villages. With them, they are talking of expressway.
What you're saying is true. What you're saying is true, but you see, that is where now mobilization of local resources comes in, because local resources come from local people. And you start, however small, but when that thinking, this Harambe concept we keep talking about, which seems to have gotten lost somewhere, that's how it started. You use what you have to do what you can. And when you start that way, you may not see it, but the community gets empowered into understanding that there are solutions they can provide for themselves.
That's what we've been doing at that small level for the last 2 years. We have been doing that little thing, and we are still pushing on and having hope that one day we'll make it to where we want to be.
Keep doing it, Pigeon. Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you too.
Asante. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, station room.
Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony.
I think I concur with the previous caller. Kenyans should brace themselves for a revolution. This fish rots from the head. Because the rate of corruption that is happening, it's even scary when sometimes you think of it. And we've been pushed to a war now. We are left with no alternative but to fight back. We saw the other day, I saw a clip of Wetangula saying the project for the road from the airport to Westlands, when the Senate was passing it, it was for 23 billion.
On the cabinet.
But when the cabinet was passing it, but when it was being launched, 63 billion. That difference. Someone and nobody explains anything, and it just goes like that. I work in a road construction company by foreigners, a foreign company. And the rate of corruption I've witnessed is scary.
How?
I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it. My position puts me in such a situation that I'm able to see it. From the governor, the government officers, members of parliament, parliamentary committee, one day they were fighting over money, literally fighting, sharing money given by the contractor.
Wow. Are these are members
Yes,
of parliament?
I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes.
It's a scramble.
I've seen. Yes, someone. I think they didn't put the figure properly. They didn't count themselves properly. Someone missed his share. Someone missed his share.
So the arithmetic didn't work out as planned.
I'm telling you, the rate of corruption I've seen and witnessed is quite scary.
So now they had to readjust their budgets.
So an odd figure for an even number.
Yes, that is exactly. And the problem is the president is doing nothing. When the leadership is doing nothing, when the leadership is part of the looting, and we can see it, because when his family does business with the government, and they do corrupt deals with the government, who is our savior? I think there'll come a time now we have to, a revolution is coming. Because today,
Andrew, let me ask you a question.
We expect the fuel to
this
go
isn't
up.
the first time you've mentioned the word. When you say revolution, what do you have in mind? What are you thinking about?
What I'm thinking about is when the citizens come out and they put everything to a halt. I think sometimes we have to bear the pain to get the gain.
Okay.
There will come a time, even if we need to ground the government operations to zero, when the citizens decide to do it and they come together, they can do it. We've seen in other countries happening. We can push out the leadership we have by force.
And then whom do you replace them with?
That's one thing that kind of scares me, because if we look at the leaders we have, the people who've been offering leadership, alternative leadership, as in almost every one of them is tainted. Almost every one of them. We were almost there during the Kibaki era. He brought us up, and then someone came, I can say wearing sheep's skin. He lied to us. Now we are crying. I regret lining up and voting for the current government. I really regret.
Usijali,
Let's
Anthony.
prices.
There's
We expect
a
them to
silver
go up.
lining somewhere.
Say tomorrow, things will go up. Everything that affects Wajiko,
Will go
unga,
up.
milk, everything, the prices will go up. Where are we going?
We hear you, Anthony. Let's hear from Kerobi in Kiambu. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
And thank you.
Good morning.
I've been listening to you guys, and I really like what I'm hearing from one of the panels in the studio. Let me just say it begins with Wanjiko. Wanjiko herself has got a lot to do, because some other time, every time when we keep on pointing fingers at these people, in most cases, what are we contributing? You understand? Okay, we contribute in whatever we buy, we go and buy, because every time we go and buy something from the shop, that's where the government tax is coming from. Now, if we see things and we keep them to ourselves, in many cases that's not helping.
Yeah.
But if we can see things and come out boldly and fight, because I would say the government that we have today, they are not men. Those are boys. Those are boys. Men are people who put their interest to the people they are working for. If you find a good husband, a good husband is somebody out there who go out there and fight for the family. So for example, a good member of parliament, a good governor, a good senator, or a good government officer is somebody who goes out with the interest of the family, the interest of the Kenyan people. But we don't have those people. Trust me, we don't have those people. Today we are going to say we have the whatever. Let me not talk about the party. But we're going to say this party. But you find the members from this party that is corrupt. When the other party becomes popular, they all jump to the other party.
Yeah.
So you find the corruption moves from this place, this party to the other party. Then what do we end up with? We end up with the same old song of corruption. What we need to do, I think, it begins with us. We are not going to stop voting. we are going to keep on voting till we die. But we do believe that one day a real man is going to be born in this country. A man who knows how to structure his policies and how to follow the policies. Because today, if we talk on procurement, for instance, you find from the county level the way the money is being spent. Do the public know how actually the money is being spent? Each and every single cent.
Not really.
We do not know. But do we go out there to ask? We don't. So eventually, we're not going to say that we're going to point a finger. First of all, we need to point fingers on ourselves. But because we don't go out there claiming or asking for the government, for the county government to publish Kiingereza kidogo ni kigumu.
To publicize that.
We normally don't go out there asking for the county government or the government actually to show us the money that they've budgeted, that this is how we've been using the money from the bigger money to the single cent. You understand?
That's true.
So this way, if at all maybe there's a way they're going to be like, okay, well, this is the money that has been allocated to this county, and this money has been used on A, B, C, D, on this contractor. This contractor was given this money. Ametengeza barabara up to this. Amefanya A, B, C, D up to this. Ndio pesa imebaki from this. Again, another thing, and sorry to say this, if you find maybe a governor, maybe an ousted governor. An ousted governor, for example, that like in Nairobi, Kiambu, or wherever, you find these governors go out. But as they go out, they just don't go out. They go out with everyone who was working under that county. I've seen that. And they come in with their own people. What does that mean? Unapata mpaka askari wa gate alienda. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Wanakuja mpaka na gate wao. Unapata hiyo gate ni brother to the
new one,
to the girlfriend of the governor. The governor anakuwa na girlfriend watatu. That's nonsense.
We hear you, Kerobi. Thank you very much for calling today.
I appreciate, man.
Asante. Have a lovely day. Well, many comments also that have coming on social media.
Becky says, a revolution going to happen in Kenya? Absolutely not. Well, just Twitter and social media warriors. Only time there can be a movement if there was a strong opposition. Am I going to throw stones or figure out what my kids will eat tonight? One question.
Therein lies it. Revolution isn't about throwing stones. Really.
It's about your kids.
It really is about your kids.
It is about how you can do things differently. That's the real revolution. And doing things differently means thinking differently. We can't be offering bribes and giving chai and practicing nepotism, and then we want to point fingers at people in high office doing the same thing as we are doing at our own level.
I think the thing is that we often see a physical resultant action of a revolution that took place in the mind. All of the revolutions that we see the world over were actually initially mental revolutions.
And
Some then resulted.
They pour out into the streets.
Yes. But the first decision was to start to change the way people think.
City, tell us about the flea and the lion.
Right. A flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea. If you consider that this country is a lion and we are the fleas, the truth of the matter is that this back and forth, who, the egg, the chicken, they are to blame, we are to blame. How do I ensure that I can bring about change in my life? How do I ensure? How do I ensure that I become relevant? And how do I get people of like mind so that I can become relevant? And how can those people who are like-minded like myself in my community, how can we come together and do things that will bring about change? Start from there. This long story of, what you can do. Not what you hope someone will do for you.
What you can
What you can do.
What can you do?
Start there.
Asante sana. Join us again tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. Hiya.
Just like that.
And just like that, the week will be coming to an end. But between now and 11 o'clock, you'll have some lovely music, uninterrupted music. And then you have Sugar and Spice coming in from 11 up to 3 o'clock. Monique to take you home on Spice Drive, 3 to 7. And then the adult in the room, Barbara Mbaka, the Duchess of Ikolomani. We'll be back tomorrow morning. C.T. Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif, thanking you very much for tuning into the Situation Room.